Chapter 66. When he exerted his strength, Yu Laosan's dantian was rooted in the soles of his feet, and the triangular area between his waist and abdomen was stretched taut. His entire body was like a drawn bow, and with the steel pincers in his hands as a fulcrum, he suddenly pounced forward. This move was incomparably fast, like a giant crocodile pouncing forward to bite. "I'll tear you into 2 pieces." Yu Laosan sneered and stomped his feet on the ground. His huge body nimbly flipped, and his taut body released a huge amount of kinetic energy. The steel pincers became even fiercer, and they were aimed at Chen Ang's waist. "What a big crocodile!" Chen Ang's eyes lit up slightly, and he looked at the charging Yu Laosan with interest. With a misstep, he stood in a position that made Yu Laosan extremely uncomfortable. Seeing that he could not exert his strength smoothly, Yu Laosan was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He forcefully twisted the steel pincers, and his speed inevitably slowed down by 1/3. Duan Yu, who was standing at the side, was extremely shocked. He thought to himself, "My dear friend, your footwork is so profound, it's so similar to my wave-like subtle steps. Even if it were me, I could only take 1 step forward, and then take 3 steps back. That fatty wouldn't be able to catch up." However, Chen Ong did not do as he thought. Instead, he took a step forward to meet Yu Laosan. However, his position just happened to be in Yu Laosan's blind spot. Chen Ong placed his hands on the 2 huge teeth of the steel pincers, and exerted a bit of force to forcibly close the pincers. Then, he raised his hands and slapped Yu Laosan to the ground. "What powerful martial arts!" Duan Yu could not help but exclaim. Wang Yuyan narrowed her eyes and furrowed her brows. "That person's martial arts are so strange. It's as if I can see the shadows of many different martial arts, but at the same time, they're not. That divine crocodile of the South Sea, Yu Laosan, couldn't even last 1 round against him. I'm afraid that even older cousin is no match for him," she said apprehensively. "If someone like that comes looking for trouble with the Murong family, older cousin will be in danger." Duan Yu noticed the frown on Wang Yuyan's face and tried to curry favor with her. "That brother over there is using the Book of Changes footwork. Gui Mei pursues Wu Wang, Wu Wang 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 pursues Wu Wang, and Wu Wang pursues Wu Wang." Wang Yuyan was worried about her cousin, and she couldn't help but ask, "What can young Master Duan see?" She felt uneasy. On one hand, she felt that she was deceiving Duan Yu, but on the other hand, she wanted to probe for some information on behalf of her cousin. She felt conflicted, and her face flushed red with embarrassment. Duan Yu was stunned. He said in a daze, "That brother has integrated the art of war and the Book of Changes into martial arts, so he must be someone who likes to take the initiative. His mental cultivation method must be Sun Tzu's art of war. As swift as the wind, as gentle as the forest, as aggressive as fire, as immovable as the mountain, as elusive as the shadow, move like thunder." With a palm strike, Chen Ong sent Yunzhong He, who had stepped forward to help, flying 30 feet away. He tumbled and crashed into a tree, while his other hand firmly grasped Yu Laosan's steel pincers. As he watched Yu Laosan hurriedly open the giant pincers, his face flushed with anxiety, he laughed. "Your nickname is Crocodile, and your martial arts are like a crocodile's. Could it be that your brain is also like a crocodile's? What nonsense are you spouting? When I open the pincers, I'll clamp you to death." Yu Laosan roared. "Idiot! Don't you know that when a crocodile is at its weakest, it's about to open its mouth?" Chen Ong tilted his head and looked at him, laughing. "Once its mouth is closed, the crocodile can't escape." Yu Laosan was slightly stunned and roared, "Nonsense." But he gave up on the giant pincers, and his hands were like two sledgehammers, smashing towards Qin Eng's head. He exerted all his strength, and his internal force struck out with an overwhelming force. Qin Eng's figure flashed, and he moved like a thunderbolt, striking at his back with his palm. Lao San! Yi Ernyang exclaimed. Yu Lao San's body trembled slightly, and like a collapsing mountain or jade pillar, he fell down with a loud bang. His body trembled slightly and then stopped moving. Yi Ernyang's eyes were wide open. She deeply revered her eldest brother, Duan Yanqing, and didn't get along well with Yun Zhonghe, the pervert. Among the four evildoers, Yu Lao San had the best relationship with her. Although they quarreled, they still had some true feelings for each other. Before she could react, Yun Zhonghe, who had climbed up, spat out dark red blood and sat down dejectedly. In just a few breaths, 2 of the 4 evildoers were gone. Everyone present was distressed. Even though the beggar sect people cheered, they were still shocked by Qin Eng's ferocity. Yi Ernyang wailed, and was about to charge forward and fight. Enough. Ernyang, you're no match for him. Duan Yanqing stopped her with his iron crutch. Duan Yanqing looked at Qin Ong seriously and said in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why do you want to make things difficult for us? We, the 4 evildoers, have never provoked you, but you've attacked us as soon as we met. I don't believe that you don't know the methods of the 4 evildoers. Methods of harming one's family?" Qin Ong sighed and said, "Jianghu matters, Jianghu disciples, Jianghu elders. Don't harm one's family, and don't involve the common people. No matter good or evil, they won't disturb the innocent people. This is the rule of Jianghu. This is also the bearing of the people of Jianghu. Only you, the 4 evildoers, dare to do evil to the innocent people." Yun Zhonghe, Yu Lao San killed indiscriminately, and Yi Ernyang angered both men and gods. She played with babies and killed them. Although you, Duan Yanqing, disdained to do this, you are their eldest brother, so you have a responsibility. You are highly skilled in martial arts, and your methods are ruthless. The people of Jianghu shouldn't provoke you for these common people. His words were full of emotion. Many beggar sect disciples looked ashamed. Many people in the Wulin world lowered their heads and sighed. The atmosphere was heavy. Qin Ong shouted sternly, "But my great song won't. I won't either. I, Qin Ong, will avenge these innocent people." Huang Cheng's eyes were red. He stood up and stood beside Qin Ong. He cupped his hands to the sky and said, "We are under the Imperial Court's 36 prohibition of martial arts to monitor the world of Jianghu. Those who commit crimes, abuse their power, and kill the innocent will be beheaded. Those who betray the country, bully the good, and disturb the local forces will be eradicated. Those who violate the law, we will strike them." The riders in red behind him shouted in unison, "Those who violate the law, we will strike them. Those who commit crimes, kill. Those who kill the innocent, kill. Those who kidnap, kill. Those who run amok, kill. Those who rebel, kill." 36 words were uttered in a row. Not only were the remnants of the Western Xia army intimidated, but even the beggar sect disciples and the elders of Jianghu were disturbed by the murderous aura. They felt a sense of vigilance, like a sharp blade hanging over their heads. The skin on their backs was slightly numb, and their hearts were trembling. "Good spirit, good power." Duan Yu praised. "The military power is strong, and the law is strong to protect the country. The great song is really a great country." He thought of the Gao family's rebellion, and could not help but feel a surge of hot blood in his heart. But Wang Yuyan, who was beside him, was worried. She thought anxiously, "My cousin has violated the Imperial Court's taboo, and now he will be investigated. That person's martial arts is so high and he is so terrifying. The Imperial Court is so powerful. What should my cousin do? What should I do? I thought I could help my cousin by knowing all kinds of martial arts, but now, I only regret that I didn't learn the art of war." Duan Yanqing was momentarily pressured by the momentum. but he had been through all kinds of hardships, and had already developed an extremely tenacious heart. He quickly recovered from the impact and said in a low voice, good spirit, if you want to eliminate us, you must have the ability first. Yi Ernyang, holding a child, rushed over with a scream and threw the child to Chen Ong. The child's cry was heard in the air. Chen Ong sighed slightly and leaped up to catch the child, regardless of the two's joint attack. Watch out! Seeing Yi Ernyang and Duan Yanqing joining hands to attack Chen Ang's vital points, Duan Yu couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. His body had already pounced forward, and the sword qi in his right hand pointed forward. A 4 feet long invisible sword qi suddenly unfolded. He took 3 steps diagonally up and 2 steps sideways, squeezing through the crowd like a slippery loach. Huang Chang also rushed over, but a Xixiao warrior suddenly appeared from the side, and blocked him with his saber. The two exchanged several moves, and Huang Chang was slightly shocked, for the warrior's martial arts were not inferior to the beggar clan's elders. But he did not know that the warrior was even more shocked, for he had never imagined that the green-robed scholar's martial arts would be far superior to his. The two fought for a while, and it was difficult to determine the winner within a few moves. Duan Yu was several feet away, and for a moment, only Chen Ong, with the child in his arms, was left to face the attacks of Yi Ernyang and Duan Yanqing. Duan Yanqing's one yang finger was concentrated on his iron crutch, and its power was astonishing. One finger could break through any protective innate qi in the world, and it was the best counter to the golden bell shield, iron shirt, and Vajra body. Even if Chen Ong were to be hit by this finger, it would be difficult for him to gain any advantage. The one yang finger was indeed marvelous. As for Yi Ernyang, she was just a small problem. Facing the attacks of two formidable enemies, Chen Ong was only slightly moved. He made a pulling gesture with his right hand, and a round energy burst out. The energy of life and death mixed together, and the way of yin and yang restrained each other. The mysterious energy overturned the heaven and earth. Yi Ernyang's body suddenly trembled, and she could not help but change direction. Duan Yanqing also felt his vision blur, and his body involuntarily followed the flow of the energy. When he saw Yi Ernyang, he only had time to withdraw 80% of the energy in his hand, and the rest hit Yi Ernyang. Yi Ernyang let out a muffled cry, and blood spilled out of her mouth and fell to the ground. Stars transposition. 3 voices rang out at the same time. Wang Yuyan looked at Elder Su of the beggar clan, and then looked at the Xixiao warrior. She felt that it was reasonable for Elder Su to be shocked, but why did the Xixiao warrior look even more shocked than her? The Western Xiao warrior was so shocked that even his voice changed. He asked in a stern voice, "Who are you? Why do you know the Big Dipper transposition?" His face was filled with malevolence and disbelief. Chapter 67. Duan Yanqing leaned on his crutches and stood in front of Yi Ernyang. His expression was very serious. He regarded Chen Ong as the greatest enemy in his life. Just now, he realized that his martial arts were not as good as Chen Ang's. His defeat this time was because of the difference in their strength. When Chen Ong made his move, he did not pay much attention. But after the fight, he realized that this person's martial arts were unparalleled in the world, and he was not his match. Realizing this, he thought of retreating. He said in a deep voice, "I have heard of the Qian Kuan de Nut. It is the Ming cult's supreme skill. So you are the current cult leader of the Ming cult. I was friends with your former cult leader, Fong La. Why are you so aggressive?" The Western Xia people arrived late and did not hear the news from the north. The young man who delivered the letter was still hiding on the side, shivering. The crowd of beggars said, "So it is the Ming cult's martial arts. We have never heard of it." But that cripple guessed wrong. Not only this person is not a member of the Ming cult, he even chased the Ming cult's cult leader for more than 300 li. Someone else thought on a deeper level. For the Ming cult to have this kind of martial art, it's clear that they're not some kind people. Not only did this person kill their big cult and cause them to scatter like monkeys when the tree falls, he even learned their most powerful martial art. He's really a powerful person. As soon as Duan Yanqing said this, he felt that something was wrong. The beggar clan's mocking eyes made his heart sink. Did I guess wrong? You are not a member of the Ming cult? You are half right. You are one of the few well-informed people in Jianghu. Chen Ong smiled and said calmly, the Ming cult lives in a remote corner and is very isolated. It is very difficult for outsiders to get information about the cult. Otherwise, the Qian Kun de Nui would not be as good as the Murong family's Big Dipper de Nui. To know about the Ming cult's supreme martial arts, you have surpassed 99% of the elders in Jianghu. Elder Su's face turned red when he heard this. Duan Yanqing did not look happy. He said in a deep voice, but I guessed wrong. What is your background? I don't care where you came from. The world has long since come to a conclusion about the wonders of the Murong clan's shifting stars. It's not up to you to comment on it. The Western Xiao warrior made a feint and retreated from Huang Cheng's grasp. Then, his body flashed and appeared in front of Chen Ong. The ancestors of the Murong clan only managed to get a glimpse of Ming cult's martial art, and they were able to turn it into their own martial art. They created a martial art that is not inferior to heaven and earth great shift. Of course they are amazing. Amazing. Chen Ong used the word amazing twice to praise the Murong clan. A divine light flashed in the eyes of the Xixiao warrior. He laughed heartily and said, give him a taste of his own medicine. The senior of the Murong family is naturally a heaven-warping hero. It's not your turn to spout nonsense here. I don't know where you've stolen some fur from. How dare you make a fool of yourself in front of the heroes of the world? Stellar transposition, naturally miraculous. The corners of Chen Ang's mouth curled up into a smile. Looking at the extremely pleased Murong Fu in front of him, he unhurriedly said, unfortunately, the affairs of the world advance. The path of martial arts is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you will fall behind. Even I have to say that Murong Longqing's stellar transposition is exquisite. But in the hands of your descendants. Chen Ong looked at Murong Fu coldly. His words struck at the bottom of Murong Fu's heart. So what? Murong Fu's expression changed. It was as if he had been stabbed at the point he didn't want to mention the most. He gritted his teeth and said coldly, you are worthy, you are worthy. I am worthy. Chen Ong said calmly. Heaven and earth great shift has been innovated in my hand. It has reached a whole new level. Of course, I can comment on your martial art. Murong Fu. When everyone heard this name, they were all shocked. Wang Yuyan couldn't help but exclaim. Feng Polio and Bao Batong looked at the person on the stage excitedly and then fiercely glared at the beggar sect disciples that surrounded them. Chen Ong looked at him and continued, although you don't care about anything and have the ambition to restore your country, it is a pity that you don't have much talent. You forget about righteousness when you see small benefit. You keep struggling, but in the end it is just a dream. In the path of martial arts, you are knowledgeable but not specialized. You have great ambitions, but you are mediocre. You are always struggling on the edge of an illusory dream. In terms of martial arts cultivation and magnanimity, you are not as good as Qiao Feng. In terms of the ability to raise flags and rebel, you are much weaker than Ming cult. Apart from an empty reputation, there is nothing worthy of praise. Qiao Feng is as famous as you, and it is a disgrace to him. When Chen Ong saw that Murong Fu's face was turning darker, he said indifferently, even I don't think highly of your ability to rebel. You still have to deal with the Ming cult, which is our greatest threat, before you can even have the chance to deal with a ringworm like you. Enough! Murong Fu shouted loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt as if his body was being pulled by an invisible string. With a strange flash, he arrived behind Chen Ong. He gathered his strength on his fingertips and pointed at Chen Ong with the joined finger. The beggar sect's martial arts teaching elder's expression changed greatly. He cried out in alarm, "Floating silk in the sky!" Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Even Duan Yanqing couldn't react in time. He saw Murong Fu's movements and thought, this person's martial arts are not bad, but it is a pity that he is far inferior to that official. With the southern seas floating silk in the sky, he should be able to withstand one or two moves. If I attack him together, I might not necessarily be inferior to that official. With this thought in mind, Duan Yanqing also pounced forward. With a tap of his steel crutch, he attacked Chen Ong from the front and Murong Fu from the back. The power of the one yang finger was unleashed to the extreme, and it was enough to burn one's body with yang fire. The joined finger was swift and fierce, while the one yang finger was vigorous. Both were unparalleled finger techniques in the world. Chen Ong felt a faint stabbing pain in his back and chest. At that moment, the two of them were still a few feet away from each other, but the force could already pass through. It was truly an extremely terrifying martial art. Who in the world would dare to ignore the combination of these two finger techniques? Chen Ong focused slightly, and his right hand silently reached out. He bent his elbow, and his movements were as smooth as flowing water. His two hands moved in a circle, and the force alternated between fast and slow. It was reserved and restrained. His will, qi, form, and spirit actually seemed to have merged into one. Murong Fu felt as if his joined finger had fallen into a ball of cotton. He was wrapped up by a tough and lingering force. He continued to point at Chen Ong, but he was pulled to the side by the force. His finger force was entangled and accumulated, and he was toying with Chen Ang's hands, unable to explode. After a while, he had already accumulated the force of 7 or 8 fingers. Duan Yanqing broke out in a cold sweat. His hands trembled violently, and he could barely hold on. Under the pull of the force, the accumulated force of the one yang finger could no longer be controlled by him. The two of them were affected by the martial art, and they could not help but execute it. They circulated their strength according to Chen Ang's guidance. It was as if there was a soft force in front of them that fought against the two finger forces. They could receive the force and control it freely. However, whenever the two of them wanted to withdraw their strength, they felt empty and powerless. They could neither release nor withdraw the force of the two fingers, and it made them feel very uncomfortable. Before they knew it, Chen Ong had carefully observed the joined finger and the one yang finger. He tried to figure out the wonders of it, and when he came back to his senses, he realized that Duan Yanqing and Murong Fu were sweating profusely. They were on the verge of collapsing. They could no longer control the force that Chen Ong was guiding. If Chen Ong withdrew his force, they would bleed from their orifices and burn their organs. The beggars' sect members were shocked. They could not believe what they were seeing. They looked at the two experts who were being toyed with. They were so shocked that they could not even describe it. If the two of them wanted him to stand, he would stand. If they wanted him to jump, he would jump. They were like two puppets with strings pulled. It was extremely comical. However, no one present had a smile on their faces or in their hearts. They only felt silence and sorrow. Murong Fu was so ashamed that he wanted to die. He let out a shrill roar. "Are you going to kill me or not? Are you going to kill me or not?" Wang Yuyan was watching from the side. She almost cried. She saw Duan Yu standing not far away and panicked. She hurriedly said, "Young Master Duan, please save my cousin." Duan Yu heard her voice and thought sadly, "Miss Wang is anxious for her cousin. If we were in different places, would she be willing to shout for me? Forget it. Miss Wang is kind. No matter who is above her, she will be anxious for him. What am I to you? She still likes her cousin." As he thought about it, he felt that he had no more business, so he closed his eyes and barged into the circle that Chen Ong had drawn. "Good timing. I'll give you a big gift." Chen Ong smiled and guided the two forces to surround Duan Yu. He patted Duan Yu's hands and lifted Duan Yu's hands to meet the two's fingers. The two forces wrapped around Chen Ang's hands. The Dark North Divine Art had sensed the internal energy and was automatically activated. An endless stream of internal energy flowed from Murong Fu and Duan Yanqing's fingertips into Duan Yu's body. When Murong Fu and Duan Yanqing executed the Northern Underworld Divine Art, the internal energy gushed out and disappeared without a trace. Only Chen Ong noticed the subtlety of it. He controlled the energy from his two fingers and slowly poured it out, smoothly preventing Duan Yu from getting injured. Only when Chen Ong finished learning the subtlety of it did he shake off the two and send Duan Yu flying dozens of feet away with a palm strike. Duan Yanqing and Murong Fu's faces were pale, their breaths were weak. Duan Yanqing was still fine, with the support of Yi Ernyang, who had finished regulating his breathing. He was able to walk with difficulty. Murong Fu directly fell on the dusty ground, cut a sorry figure, completely losing his previous majestic appearance. Abai cried out in alarm. She pushed away the beggar clan disciples and stepped forward to help him up. Naturally, the beggar clan would not make things difficult for a little girl, but Murong Fu struggled to push Abai's support away. "I don't need anybody to help me," he sternly said. His expression was one of fear. "Where is my internal energy? Where's my internal energy?" Abai sobbed. "Young master." Murong Fu looked up to the sky and laughed. He pushed Abai away. "I haven't lost yet." Chen Ong sighed and walked slowly to Murong Fu. "You really haven't lost. You've lost 50% of your internal energy, but it doesn't mean you're a cripple. Only after 100 refinements can you forge fine steel. Since ancient times, those who achieved great things have all gone through trials and tribulations. Your attitude really makes people look down on you." Murong Fu listened to his words and struggled for a while. Finally, he calmed down. He tidied up his appearance and said quietly, "Your Excellency has won." Unexpectedly, he also struggled to stand up, his face more resolute. Compared to before, there was an indescribable feeling surging in his body. Chen Ong looked back at Yi Ernyang and said coldly, "I hope you'll be there at the Shaolin Temple meeting. Whether you're happy or sad, retribution or not, I want you to face it calmly. Are you willing to go?" Yi Ernyang was silent for a while. Then she asked in a dry voice, "Is it about my enemy? Half a lifetime of karma, half a lifetime of sorrow and joy." Chen Ong did not answer directly. Yi Ernyang said in a low voice, "I'm willing to go." She raised her head and looked at Chen Ong with sparkling eyes. She said calmly, "There's always a voice urging me that I won't regret it. Don't you think so?" Chen Ong did not answer her. He looked around at the messy scene and killed Haoyan Taishu with one palm. He turned around and patted Duan Yu's shoulder, saying, "Prince, it's time for us to go." Duan Yu was startled and asked blankly, "Where to?" "Follow young Master Murong to Swallow Dock." Chapter 68. The misty rain of Jiangnan was supposed to be a lingering scenery. Coupled with the gentle breeze, it was intoxicating. Chen Ong stood in front of the Xingshui pavilion, holding a scroll in his hands. Beside him was a cup of green tea. Floating in the light green tea were pieces of deep green tea leaves, like small beads, covered with fine hair. With a slight sway, a fragrant aroma wafted into the air. These pearl-shaped tea leaves were a specialty of the mountains near Lake Tai. The locals called them frightening fragrance, and later generations called them bilyuakun. Incense, scroll, and tea. Chen Ong looked very relaxed. Surrounded by clouds and mist, there was a sense of transcendence in the misty rain. At this moment, the books piled up beside him were all the books that were still in the Water Perfume Pavilion and the Langxian Jade Cave. Although the Murong family had taken good care of these precious books, they had never carefully tidied them up. They viewed these secret martial arts books as their exclusive property. How could they easily let others come in and tidy them up and flip through them? Murong Fu alone only picked some famous martial arts books to read. Naturally, he missed a lot of things. In Langxian Jade Cave, the free and unfettered sex classification method was still maintained. There were many empty theories of martial arts, and even some strange and unorthodox things were classified as miscellaneous knowledge. They were scattered messily on the bookshelves. There were many notes and writings that were like reflections, but no one organized them. It seemed that since the free and unfettered sect, these things were not valued. The fact that they could be preserved was due to the relocation of Langxian Blessed Land. Reality proved that many a time, pearls were always hidden in the mud. In the process of organizing these martial arts books, Chen Ong and Huang Chang made many discoveries. Sometimes, the title of a book could be misleading. Chen Ong found many wondrous things in an incomplete Tang Dynasty copy of Golden Bell Shield. After thinking about it carefully, he realized that this Golden Bell Shield was actually a remnant of Unbreakable Golden Body. It had a familiar name. Half of the 30-odd copies of Golden Bell Shield in the Water Perfume Pavilion had different contents. Some of these secret manuals were good, some were bad, some were crude, and some were exquisite and magical. Most of the time, it was just the author's incoherent thoughts, but in Chen Ang's eyes, it was an incomparably precious inspiration and wisdom. Especially the martial arts that were widely spread in Jianghu. There were 37 versions of Iron Skin and 51 versions of Eagle Claw. Even Flying on Grass had 12 sects and 29 different versions. Other than the names, the contents were completely different. Chen Ong often used a stack of white paper to record the secrets within in 2 or 3 pages. He read thousands of martial arts books every day, and the white paper in front of him became thicker and thicker. When he finished reading a section, Chen Ong would organize his reading notes, summarizing the summaries and summaries into summaries. Chen Ong would often write a thick stack of white paper. The more he read, the slower the speed at which the white paper increased. Many books that couldn't be divided into different types had to be reclassified. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. Chen Ong had already finished reading more than half of the book. His notes were also thick, and they were as tall as a palm. He had also accumulated a whole body of notes on summaries and summaries of the book. Countless martial arts wisdom, some principles summarized by third-rate experts through hard work, secret manuals passed down in sects and revised generation after generation, and the exclusive martial arts and practice notes of some experts were scattered, comprehended, and mastered by Chen Ong together with the books in the imperial palace. They became his rich accumulation. Even if he didn't count these, Chen Ong had also discovered hundreds of valuable books in the books of the 2 sections. What surprised him was that Unfettered Master had annotations on many of the secret manuals, but it seemed that he was the first person to discover them. In the secret manuals on palm techniques and punches, there were some arguments mixed in. When they were sorted out, it was more than half of the Tianshan plum-breaking hand. Chen Ong even found a few words on the Northern Underworld Divine Skill, the 8 Desolations and 6 Directions Supremacy, and the minor formless mental cultivation method in some of the notes. He linked these martial arts together and formed a clear martial arts vein. Back then, the Unfettered Master had also gone through these secret manuals to sort out the unique martial arts of the Unfettered School. Chen Ong copied this path, and unexpectedly grasped the thoughts of the Unfettered Master. Many scattered points of wisdom that didn't form into martial arts thoughts became Chen Ang's most precious harvest. This was like an exchange between the two of them that transcended time. The sparks of wisdom collided and sparkled. With Huang Chang's help, Chen Ong quickly summarized the books that were still in the Water Pavilion and the Jade Cave. There were a total of 36,814 complete books and 3,021 incomplete books. After eliminating the duplicates and meaningless books, and sorting out the inconsistencies into the most complete version, and then correcting the mistakes and finding the mistakes, there were only 9,063 books left in the collection. Just Chen Eng's reading notes alone had 67 volumes and 80,000 pages. The project could be said to be huge, and the value was also infinite. These 67 volumes of reading notes, each volume was the world's top martial arts secret manual, or it could be said that the world's martial arts were a collection. Except for the I Jin Jing, 6-pulse divine sword, and 18 subduing dragon palms, and a few others, it was a collection of all the martial arts in the world. This time, Chen Ong had accumulated a lot of knowledge and gained a lot, far beyond his imagination. Huang Chang was so engrossed in it that he forgot to eat and sleep day and night. He studied the Shaolin 72 consummate arts and the various martial arts of the Carefree sect. Chen Ong was sure that he had learned more than the orthodox Carefree sect disciples and the Shaolin monk. Huang Chang sighed and thought that Chen Eng's reading notes should not be called Langhuan Xing, but General Principles of the World's Martial Arts. This, General Principles, was obscure, and only those who had read the world's martial arts would be able to understand a thing or two. There were actually not many who were qualified to understand it. There were only 2.5 people by Chen Eng's side. Huang Chang was one, Wang Yuyan was the other, and the remaining half was actually Morong Fu. And Chen Eng's own General Principles of the World's Martial Arts was like a heavenly book. Not only did the reader need to be proficient in martial arts, but they also needed to be proficient in medicine, mathematics, divination, astrology, qimeng, duanjia, and bewitching technique. Only then would they be able to understand 30% of it. If they wanted to understand it all, not only would they need a dozen doctorates on Earth, they would also need to know some alien science. It seemed that no one could learn this general principles of the world's martial arts. The books of Longhuan and Huanshe can only be counted as 40% of the world's martial art. The name, General Principles, does not match the reality. Chen Ong sighed and turned to look at Huang Chang. Don't be fascinated by the martial arts inside. You have to know that the world's martial arts are endlessly complex, and there are many areas where there are conflict. You only need to comprehend the wisdom, there is no need to practice. Huang Chang was puzzled. The Water Pavilion's martial arts are complete. Even the Inner Palace's martial arts library cannot compare to 10,000th of it. I carefully counted, and there are only 220 scrolls that the Inner Palace has. As for the martial arts that the Water Pavilion does not have, there are even detailed records of the Xixia, Hui, Tubo, and Liao people's martial arts. This is only 40% of the world's martial arts? 40% is just me raising it too high. The principles and wisdom of martial arts can only be described on paper. You also know a thing or two about the low level of knowledge of martial arts in the world. Even if they have some wisdom and ideas, it would be difficult for them to put them into word. Are there not many masters who are illiterate? Chen Ong said faintly. Huang Chang was slightly lost in thought. He sighed and said, "The mysteries of the mysteries are difficult to describe." Chen Ong felt more and more deeply that martial arts were hidden in all aspects. It was not something that could be described in a secret manual. No wonder the Shaolin Temple was not afraid of their martial arts secret manuals being leaked. This was because the Shaolin Temple's inheritance was not only in the Sutra Depository, but also in meditation, the guidance of a master, the true teachings passed down by word of mouth. There was even a kind of atmosphere, culture, and the way to comprehend the teachings passed down from generation to generation. Only by using the world as a teacher could one understand the true meaning of the world's martial art. Every world had its own scenery. Its inheritance was similarly deep and profound. The difference between a martial arts level should not be its power, but its wisdom. This was because power was easy to obtain, but the state of mind was hard to obtain. The martial arts of every world were deep and profound. There were countless people who perfected them. Some martial arts that could control the wind and thunder, and had boundless power might not be as profound as the light and floating taiji. It was short-sighted to judge martial arts based on power. How could a fish and a bird be compared? The path of inner strength was naturally weaker compared to controlling the world's origin energy, wind, fire, and thunder. However, Chen Ong found that this kind of self-sufficient divine ability system was more suitable for him. Who could guarantee that the world's origin energy was of the same nature and expression in every world? When Chen Ong sensed the origin power, he found that the Sky Dragon world's origin power was almost dead. There was not the slightest ripple. The strength of a Jedi Knight might not be better than a martial artist here. Chen Eng's eyes were azure blue. He felt the abnormally pure inner strength in his body. It was nourishing his body and spirit. He looked up and smiled. The Tao was not to look down on others. It was to learn from the lowly and discover the brilliance of the ordinary. Chapter 69. The scenery in Jiangnan was the most enchanting. Before he knew it, Chen Ong had already stayed in Canhe Villa for 2 months. He read and practiced martial arts every day, and he looked very relaxed. It was as if he was completely immersed in the mysteries of martial arts. He didn't even care about the fact that the 2 little girls from the Murong family had sneaked out. If it were not for the fact that everyone knew this, it would be very difficult to connect the martial prohibition hall, which had stirred up a storm of blood in the martial arts world of Jiangnan, with this indifferent young scholar. Who would believe that Governor Chen, who was so famous in the martial arts world that he could stop a child from crying, would dress like a devout scholar? Big Brother Chen, please let Miss Wang go. Duan Yu ran over anxiously. When he saw Chen Ong, he begged. Miss Wang might be related to Sir Murong, but I can guarantee that she definitely does not know about the Murong family's scheme. Chen Ong raised his head in surprise and said in puzzlement, I didn't make things difficult for Miss Wang. Don't worry. After we search Langxian Jade Cave, the Martial Prohibition Hall will not disturb Mantua Villa anymore. It's not because of the Martial Prohibition Hall. Duan Yu paced back and forth anxiously. It's because of Madame Wang. Miss Wang had a falling out with Madame Wang because of Sir Murong, and she is now imprisoned by her. She has not eaten anything for 3 days. What should we do? I don't care about that, Chen Ong said indifferently. This is her family's business. What can I do? Can I break her out of prison? It would be better if Miss Wang ran out on her own. Run out on her own? Duan Yu's eyes lit up, and he came to a sudden realization. He saw that Chen Ong was copying something, and he said in puzzlement, Big Brother Chen, I see that you write without stopping. You can write hundreds of thousands of words in a day, but it's an extremely simple theory. Big Brother Chen, you are a very learned person. What's the point of writing all this? Isn't writing and theory for people to read? Chen Ong said with a smile, Since it's for people to read, it's better to be simple and straightforward. Why do you have to be mysterious? Simple things that you see, to many people, are like heavenly books. I have written these so that everyone in the world can understand them, so that everyone can learn knowledge. I only need to worry that it is not simple enough, but I do not need to worry that there is no knowledge. Duan Yu praised, Big Brother Chen, you are really ambitious. He flipped open the manuscript that Chen Ong had placed on the table and was surprised to see that it was filled with some farming and weaving characters, accompanied by a few catchy lines of songs. Duan Yu found it both smooth and tongue-twisting. He frowned and switched to the local accent. This time it was much smoother. Duan Yu recited it quickly and felt his breathing calm down. Then, he realized to his surprise that when he recited the incantation, the rhythm of the incantation corresponded with each other. It was an extremely simple breathing technique. Connecting it to the drawings he had seen just now, he realized that they were actually the simplest martial arts. Brother Chen, is this a martial art? Duan Yu flipped through the stack of notes in disbelief. They were all simple martial arts principles and cultivation technique. Are you talking about this 100 Fields martial arts? Chin Ong smiled and said, "Farmers farm and women weave. They are exhausted every day. I have created the 100 Fields martial arts, combining breathing techniques with the horse-riding stance to train their bodies through simple daily labor. I hope that everyone in the world will be strong and healthy so that they will not suffer from illness. Big Brother Chin is kind and benevolent. If the people of Great Song are strong and healthy, Great Song will prosper," Duan Yu said happily. Chin Ong smiled and agreed. The way of martial arts can make people constantly strive for self-improvement. Unceasing self-improvement could be said to have summarized the essence of martial arts, but what Chin Ong did not say was, when these straightforward martial arts principles spread throughout the world, how many people would benefit from it? When the world's farmers and weavers were all martial artists, how many experts would stand out? That would be a golden age of martial arts. Duan Yu was still young, and after staying at Chen Ang's place for a long time, he became restless. His face was full of embarrassment, as if he had something to ask, but was too embarrassed to do so. "Is there anything else, young Master Duan?" Chen Ong knew that if he did not ask, this hothead would not be able to speak for a long time. Chen Ong was interested in his martial arts, but it did not mean that he liked to have such a person hanging around him while he was studying. "Big Brother Chen," Duan Yu said embarrassedly, "Madam Wang wanted me to ask you how long you will be staying at Can He Village." After saying that, he could not help but explain himself. Madam Wang did not mean anything else. "It's just that," Chen Ong was extremely rude to Madam Wang. In front of her, he made a few of her right-hand men become flower fertilizer. If Madam Wang did not offer the Langxian Jade Cave in time, there would be a beautiful death row prisoner in the prison. After being threatened, Madam Wang still dared to touch the Imperial Court's tiger whiskers. She really did not want to live anymore. "It won't be long." Chen Ong interrupted him and looked at the misty lake outside the window with a smile. "I'm waiting for someone. When he arrives, I will leave so that she doesn't have to worry for too long." "Who are you waiting for, Big Brother Chen?" Duan Yu asked curiously. "My 4 uncles are well informed. They can help you look for him." "There's no need for that. It's just a dead man. Besides, he's already here." Chen Ong cast his gaze towards the lake in the distance. A black shadow that was easily overlooked quickly swept across the surface of the lake. With a light splash on the surface of the lake, the figure flashed and appeared on the shore a few feet away. It was only a dozen steps away from Chen Ong. Even before he appeared, his lightness skill had already taken the lead. Although there were lightness skills, such as swallows flick 3 times and flying on grass in Jianghu, it was just a name. No one could really flick and fly. Chen Ong knew that in a few hundred years, the green-winged bat King Wei Yixiao's lightness skill would be able to fly on grass. He did not expect that he would see swallows flick 3 times who could truly tread on water. To be able to cultivate a third-rate lightness skill to such a miraculous level, the newcomer was not only an expert, but also a grandmaster in martial arts. The man in black said in a low, muffled voice, "I thought that Chen Ong, whose name has shaken the world and stirred up a great storm, was some kind of hero. But after seeing you today, it seems that you are just SOSO. It's just an empty reputation, not worth mentioning," Chen Ong said with a smile. "But old Mister is a dead man. Why are you here to join in the fun?" The man in black laughed. His voice shook the water on the roof and caused Duan Yu to stagger. "If this old man doesn't come out, I'm afraid that someone will dig my grave. Even if I become a ghost, I'll still have to crawl out. But I don't know how you manage to see through my great ambition. Murong Bo, you are determined to restore your country. You even gave your child the word, Fu. Your ambition is not small. Unfortunately, your means are too inferior. You always go back and forth in the martial arts world. I can't see how you can be considered as a great ambition." Chen Ong sighed. Murong Bo took off the cloth covering his face. He was dressed like an old monk. He casually swept a glance at the shocked Duan Yu and suddenly grinned. Ah, Brother Chen must be joking. Murong Bo's expression immediately turned friendly. Duan Yu was so scared that he retreated a few steps. He didn't know what this person was planning. Brother Chen also has a great ambition. It's reasonable for you to look down on me. But Brother Chen, do you know why I've hidden my identity all these years? Murong Bo calmly smiled. Chen Ong indifferently said, Old Mr. hid your identity and stirred up a great storm in Jianghu. Crouching Bull Sect's headmaster Ku Baisui and Shaolin Temple's Reverend Xian Bei both died in your hands. Apart from hiding your identity, the most important reason was to accumulate resources, goods, and military equipment. Old Mr. also contacted many people. Apart from the heroes of the underworld and the big gangs, even the Tufan Nation's Master Jiumaji has a tacit understanding with you. You must have contacted a group of idiots to make an agreement with you. Murong Bo laughed and said, That's right. This old man has been running around for half of my life. Apart from money and military equipment, I also have a lot of connections. As long as this old man calls for help, people will follow me like clouds. Dozens of volunteer armies will respond. The Central Plains will be filled with the flames of war. Liao, Xia, and Tufan will all come to divide the great song. Chen Ong shook his head and said, If you were really sure, why would you waste half of your life? That's right. Murong Bo said with certainty, The great song's territory is stable and the border is stable. Our Murong family is small and weak. Rebuilding our country is easier said than done. If there is no opportunity, my plan for half of my life will be nothing but empty words. Then the only opportunity is when the Central Plains will be in chaos and war will break out everywhere. Chen Ong added. Murong Bo smiled and said, That's right. I put my hope in the war between the Liao and the Song. Who would have thought that the Liao people did not want to advance? Their military equipment is weak, and they have already lost the desire to conquer the south. I also tried to contact the Ming cult and instigate them to rebel against the Song. Unfortunately, they were uprooted by you. Chen Ong smiled and looked at him coldly. At this time, I notice that you have great ambition. If we join hands, it will be like adding wings to a tiger. We will divide the great Song's country. You will have a great achievement. Then you will become a king and rule a country. Wealth and honor will be passed on to your descendant. Isn't that better than working for the Zhao family? Chen Ong shook his head and said with a smile, You don't understand me. Don't use your own heart to speculate about me. Murong Bo also sneered. Why do you need to hide it? You have the Song Emperor's trust. You lead the army outside, but you let the Ming cult's remnants go. Your forbidden martial hall wantonly collected wealth and goods everywhere. You even secretly forged ironware. You mobilized a large number of people and carried out large-scale construction. You even secretly controlled the world's #1 clan, the Beggar Clan. With this kind of behavior, are you still a loyal minister and a filial son? Your martial arts skill is peerless. When the time comes, you will assassinate the Song Emperor. The world will be in chaos. My Murong family will build a righteous banner and send the army to Shandong to coordinate with you. At the same time, Tubo, Shixiao, Dali, and Great Liao will rise. Chapter 70. Hearing this, Chen Ong couldn't help but laugh. Murong Bo's ambition to restore his country had already captivated his heart. For the country's affairs, he would do anything, sacrifice anything, use anything, and put his personal grudges and family's happiness in second place. Just this viciousness alone was enough to make him an ambitious and ruthless person. Although he was very concerned about Murong Fu right now, facing this enemy who had humiliated his son, as long as he had value, he would do anything to rope him in. It was hard to tell if this was funny or pitiful. From a certain point of view, this kind of indomitable spirit was worthy of admiration. Old mister, you look down on this Chin too much. Chen Ong clasped his hands behind his back and said, the great undertaking you are pursuing, perhaps in your eyes, it is worth sacrificing everything for, but in this Chen's eyes, what is it? What you said, the title of king, the fame and wealth. Chen Ong slightly paused, then turned around to look at Murong Bo. I'm sorry, this Chen still doesn't put it in my eyes. The fame and wealth of the human world are like dust. I only wish to be like this bright moon, shining for eternity. His tone was calm, his eyes were sincere, but the content of his words made Murong Bo unable to suppress the anger in his heart. If sire is not willing, just directly refuse me, don't talk nonsense, it will make this old man look down on you. I only ask you, are you willing to divide the great Song's rivers and mountains with me? Not willing. A clear voice without a trace of impatience came from Chen Ong. Murong Bo tightly clenched his fists. A layer of tenacious energy faintly appeared on his iron fists. Duan Yu could even see Murong Bo's body slightly trembling, obviously trying to suppress himself. Sire, you have to think carefully, if you say it out loud, it will be hard to take back the spilled water. I thought I have already said it very clearly, if you still don't understand, then I will say it again. Chen Ong coldly said. The answer Murong Bo heard was still that resolute and decisive word. Not willing. Good. Murong Bo said the word good 3 times in a row and was already anxious. He calmed his mind and raised his palm. Duan Yu, who was several meters away, could feel the powerful palm. However, after a moment of silence, Murong Bo suddenly put down his palm and his figure flashed. Then he took down the brush that Chen Ong had hung on the wall. This surprised Chen Ong. Even at this point, Murong Fu still did not give up on trying to persuade him. Indeed, Murong Fu was an unyielding and ambitious person of his generation. His will was much more tenacious than Murong Fu's. Unfortunately, Murong Bo had no talent in strategy, which could be seen from Murong Fu. His will was much more tenacious than Murong Fu's. Wang Yuyan had once said that Murong Fu wants to be a Hu, not a Chinese. He doesn't even want to know Chinese words or read Chinese books. Murong Chen had such thoughts, and he had Chen, and had to say, Murong Chen and Chen shouldn't be the Chinate. Murong Bo seemed to want to use the same trick again, to subdue him with his martial arts. Chen Ong could see that Murong Bo wanted to use the same trick again, to subdue him with his martial arts. Chen Ong didn't know whether he should praise him for his heroism or ridicule him for his naivety. In this world, there were not many people who were proficient in hundreds of martial arts, and Murong Bo was one of them. Having such an opponent was really hard to come by. Being able to verify the hundreds of martial arts was exactly what Chen Ong wanted. Chen Ong picked up a brush hanging on the table. The ink on the tip of the brush had not dried yet. Duan Yu felt relieved, thinking, Chen Dage and Murong Bo are in a hurry, so they are using calligraphy and painting brushes. The tip of the brush is soft and the shaft is loose, so how can it hurt people? Compared to them, they don't really need to put their lives on the line. Before Duan Yu could come back to his senses, he saw Murong Bo brandishing his brush and jabbing it 3 times on Chen Ang's left cheek. With his vigorous internal energy, the tip of the brush was much sharper than the edge of a sword. His strength surged, and the brush seemed to be splashing ink in the air, creating an illusion of thick and colorful colors. The strength of the brush was perfect. Duan Yu was surprised. This man's brush technique is very powerful. In all my life, Uncle Zhu Danshan is the best judge brush I have ever seen. But compared to Senior Murong, he is still a long way behind. This brush technique is perfect. In the past, when Uncle Zhu taught me to read, he said that the facial muscles are like the bones of a willow. But now that I have seen it, I know what it really is. Under Murong Bo's free and easy strokes, every word was soul-stirring. His strokes were like falling stones, and under the tip of the brush, metal and stone could be split open. His painting was like the summer clouds, his strokes were like flowing water. His hook was like a piece of gold, with every turn, it could capture the soul. His spear was like a crossbow. When it was brandished, the wind whistled, and it looked like an elephant moving horizontally and vertically. Every stroke was aimed at Chen Ang's vital acupoint. His brush was like a silver-edged iron pole, far sharper than a sword. "What a good Zhang Huaik steel!" Chen Ong exclaimed in admiration. In midair, Chen Ong raised his brush, exerting his strength in a gentle and graceful manner. Duan Yu saw a small brush blocking Murong Bo's vigorous chi. Every time it lifted and moved, it would hit the weak points of Murong Bo's brush. It was graceful and elegant, round and beautiful. Between the lines, the regular script, the flowing and stopping, the stopping and the flowing. Murong Bo's brush was moving freely, displaying his own satisfaction. The tips of the two brushes did not meet, they were all feints. However, Murong Bo's strokes were not as smooth as they were in the beginning. He felt that his strokes were stiff and difficult to write. There were several times when he couldn't write with that kind of pleasure. His strength was intermittent, and his heart was extremely sullen. On the other hand, Chen Ang's strokes were free and easy. His strokes were extremely natural and unrestrained. Murong Bo tried to block his strokes several times, but he was forced by Chen Ang's splashing of ink. He only had enough time to parry. Seeing Chen Ang's clear weather after fast snow was getting smoother and smoother, while his own strokes were a complete mess, Murong Bo became anxious and decided to use the way of weapons to forcibly dismantle his strokes. In Duan Yu's eyes, he knew he had already lost. Since it's come to this, I might as well be a bit more straightforward. Murong Bo was determined in his heart. Regardless of the artistic conception of his strokes, he only used the most basic judge's brush technique. When the brush touched the edge of the brush fell steeply, the brush spread out, and the momentum was enough to retract the edge, forcing Chen Ong to turn around to defend himself. His strength was incomparably exquisite. The horizontal stroke was like a piece of paper falling in the opposite direction, slowly moving forward but quickly returning back, strangling Chen Ang's throat. Murong Bo repeatedly used this 8 strokes of Yong, 8 kinds of force exertion technique. Over and over again, he was unable to form a complete character. Only his strokes exerted strength, completely without any restraint. Obviously, he had the idea of forcing Chen Ong to a draw. To his surprise, Chen Ong burst into laughter. His brush changed from clear weather after fast snow to preface to the Orchid Pavilion. In the 9th year of Yonghe, the year is 10th Cho. The first character, Yong, was used to seal the vital acupoints on the side, horizontally restrain the edge of the weapon, vertically exerting strength, hook, flick, short flick, peck, restrain, one by one, forcing Murong Bo to only have the strength to parry. When he wrote beginning of late spring, the character, Ji, was like a dragon or snake rising from the land. Unexpectedly, the strength of the brush materialized in the air, sweeping horizontally and horizontally, unstoppable. A loud pa sound was heard on Murong Bo's face. The tip of the brush drew a lightning-like crease on his face. Murong Bo was so shocked that he was unable to control himself. Just as he was about to retreat, another character, Ji, came out from Chen Ang's brush. The edge of the brush broke. Murong Bo tried his best to resist, but a red mark appeared on his hand. These 20 characters, under Chen Ang's pen, were soul-stirring, just like a celestial swordsmanship. Duan Yu's mind swayed, unable to control himself. Good martial art, good calligraphy. Even if Wang Yujun was still alive, he would only be this good. When had he ever seen such unrestrained brushwork? He only felt that this brushwork, no matter where it was used, had a kind of wonderful effect that could move one's mind. Murong Bo's forehead was beaded with sweat. He tried to block left and right, but in the end, he decided to act shamelessly. He launched his agility skill, moving back and forth in the small inner chamber, while anxiously saying, "Good martial art. I admit defeat in this match. Governor, there's no harm in watching me brandish my brush." With a stomp of his foot, Murong Bo soared into the air. His brush was like a giant axe swinging down. His strength was as vast as the Yangtze River, surging forward. Every stroke of his brush was like a tidal wave, like 10,000 galloping horses, crashing in front of Qin Ong. Under Qin Eng's brush, several zhang's high waves were set off. It was really like turbid waves coming from the sky, overturning the rivers and overturning the seas, with the power to destroy everything. However, no matter how turbulent Murong Bo's brush was, Qin Ong was as steady as a mountain. Under his brush, the monstrous waves were as docile as a tamed sheep. It carried a sense of tranquility and docility. If one were to say that Murong Bo's brush was like the great river and the great sea, it was full of vigor. That Qin Ong was like a towering mountain, towering and unmoving. That small brush was as big as a linen cloth. Unexpectedly, it had the lofty and unmoving spirit of Mount Tai. Qin Ong stood alone with his left hand clasped behind his back, leisurely facing Murong Bo's all-out attack. The small brush, as if it had a mind of its own, went against the surging waves, like a swallow flying in the sky. Sometimes it rushed to the top of the wave, sometimes it fell to the bottom of the wave, freely traversing the monstrous wave. Bit by bit, like the rising sun, the hazy mist dispersed. A corner of the Green Mountain was revealed, blocking the middle of the great river. No matter how the waves surged, the Green Mountain was happy and unmoving. The small brush slowly lifted the veil of the Green Mountain. A towering mountain stood motionless in the middle of the great river, blocking its path. No matter how the turbid waves rolled, it was unshakable. Murong Bo's brush was getting narrower and narrower, as if there was a huge mountain blocking in front of him. No matter how his brush moved, it was still slowly pressing forward. The imposing manner was imposing, the pressure was overwhelming, making him want to vomit blood. He couldn't stop his momentum, he could only let the brush go further and further, gradually entering the extreme. In the end it crashed into the mountain, shattering into pieces. Chapter 71. The moon filled the calm lake, and it was drizzling slightly. The moonlight couldn't be seen, only the moonlight covered the world. On the surface of the water, there were countless tiny ripples, swaying the moonlight. The cold wind, together with the raindrops, hit one's face, bringing a refreshing feeling of coolness. Qin Ong stood alone on the boat, leisurely looking at the reflection of the lake. His face was tranquil, without a single ripple. Behind him, Murong Bo, who was in a sorry state, looked at him with a gloomy expression. If I'm not mistaken, what Sire used just now, was it my Murong family's joined finger? Qin Ong gently flicked the raindrops, turned his head and said, "When one's martial arts reach our realm, ordinary moves are no longer important. Just now, out of the 53 variations, 12 of them indeed came from joined finger." Murong Bo sighed and said, "Fu-er has painstakingly practiced this finger technique for 20 years, but it's not as good as what you've achieved in 3 months. If I didn't know, I'm afraid I would also think that you've been practicing this finger technique for more than 50 years. Qin Ong looked at him with a smile and said, "With this kind of finger technique, even if he practiced for another 100 years, he still wouldn't be my opponent." His voice didn't carry a hint of ridicule, it was just a plain statement. But when it reached Murong Bo's ears, it was very unpleasant. His complexion changed, and after a long time, he sighed and said, "That's true, Sire's martial arts are improving day by day, and you're not much older than Fu. Even if he wants to reach your current realm, he still needs 20 years. I'm afraid 20 years won't be enough." Qin Ong flicked his fingers lightly, and a silver strand of rain fell in front of him. It was supposed to be the softest thing in the world, but he played with it like a silver pearl in his hand. With this flick, it suddenly shot out. In an instant, the world changed color. Countless crisscrossing ripples appeared on the surface of the water between Murong Bo and Qin Ong. The silver thread passed through the ripples and raindrops on the surface of the lake. It carried a colorless yet fatal force as it went straight for the center of Murong Bo's eyebrows. The raindrops in the sky also drifted towards Murong Bo along with this attack. Hidden within the 10,000 raindrops was Chen Ang's one and only finger, which gave Murong Bo a deep pressure. He shook his sleeves, and like an iron wall, he struck the surface of the water in front of him with his thick inner force. The water splashed several meters high, and like an overwhelming wave, it blocked in front of him. Thousands of silver threads were left on the other side of the waves. Only a silver light broke through the waves and shot in. It hit Murong Bo's fluttering sleeves and caused a violent ripple. Even the boat that Murong Bo was on was pushed a few feet away. Flower-pinching finger. Murong Bo was horrified. Chen Ong unexpectedly used the raindrops as a chess piece and imbued a strand of flower-pinching finger's power. One must know that water was the softest thing in the world. It was formless and formless. To be able to use water as a hidden weapon, it could be said to be unheard of. To be able to use it for dozens of steps without exhaustion, it was even more like a myth. Before he could even put down his sleeves, a piece of chest-sized cloth floated down from his chest, revealing the color of his chest. This time, Murong Bo could not even maintain his composure as he revealed an aghast expression. Flower-pinching finger's power could be imbued with the raindrops. It was already inconceivable. However, Chen Ong unexpectedly kept the power of flower-pinching finger silent and formless. He made the power of his finger go through Murong Bo's subduing demon technique and left a mark on his chest. This kind of martial art could be said to be extremely terrifying. Sure enough, 20 years is not enough. Murong Bo roused his spirit and focused his gaze on his finger. Looking for an opportunity, he pointed his finger at the silver thread in front of him. A drop of ice froze the raindrops, and at this point, an icicle shot out. On the other side, Chen Ong smiled and flicked 3 times in front of him. A drop of soft water shot out like an arrow. The force was incomparably fierce. If it hit a person's body, it would not be inferior to steel, it would be able to shatter the bones. His raindrops were as thick as mercury, unlike Murong Bo's, which was condensed into ice. Just this point alone made Murong Bo lose. Although the force of ice was strong, Chen Ong used an invisible object to support the force, which was much stronger than his ice finger. Your Du Luo leaf finger is indeed very overbearing. Murong Bo waved his finger 3 times, and only then did he scatter 3 drops of water. On the other hand, Chen Ong lightly grabbed the icicle and pinched it between his fingers. Old Mister's joined finger is also unparalleled in this world. Chen Ong smiled faintly, and with a chi sound the icicle disappeared. Even Murong Bo could not see its shadow anymore. In the sky and on the ground, countless raindrops splashed, and Murong Bo could hear a dense rustling sound. Not a sound could be heard, only a bit of warning in his heart made him extremely vigilant. Without any basis, Murong Bo pointed his finger at the empty space. An explosive sound rang out in the air, and dozens of raindrops burst apart, as if 2 powerful forces suddenly collided with each other. Water mist filled the air. Murong Bo's ears were dripping with sweat, and he said with a trembling voice, "Formless finger of disaster, your Du Luo actually used water vapor as the foundation to support the force of your finger. Admirable! Admirable!" When he said the first word of admiration, Murong Bo was still on the boat. When he said the second word of admiration, he had already fallen into the lake. Murong Bo dipped his sleeves under the water and sprinkled a stream of water. His toes touched the surface of the water, and he kicked a water ball. This was Shaolin's unique skill, shadow pursuing kick and dharma palm. However, Murong Bo's 2 palm and leg forces, which contained all of his strength, were slightly shaken by Chen Ong and exploded in the air. Chen Ang's 5 fingers rotated, little by little, some were slow, some were heavy, some were incomparably fast, some were silent. All the martial arts that Murong Bo had seen in his life were all carried by a little bit of rain, forcing him into a very difficult situation. He could only use all of his martial arts one by one. The two of them used the lake as a chessboard, the lake water and the rain as chess pieces. Under the moonlight they were playing a game of chess. Murong Bo had already forgotten about the competition. He was using all of his strength to deal with this unprecedentedly powerful enemy. But Chen Ong was only forcing him to use his full potential. The martial arts that Murong Bo had been learning for many years, the subtlety of it was somewhat similar. He had painstakingly practiced the Shaolin Temple's consummate skill for more than 20 years, the 100 martial arts, and his own Murong family's consummate skill had become Chen Ang's target of study. If in the beginning Chen Ong relied on his profound cultivation of martial arts to forcefully control them, then now, under Murong Bo's polishing and teaching, these unique skills had a layer of indescribable flavor. The subtlety of being practiced to the bone was revealed from Chen Ang's movements. All kinds of martial arts wisdom in the library were carefully chewed, and even more subtle subtleties were dug out. Murong Bo was forced to the extreme. He exerted all his strength to slap the water surface. He had forgotten all the rules and threw himself at Chen Ong. His right hand pointed, and it was the pinching flower finger that Chen Ong had just used. The hidden power of this finger was extremely sinister. When Murong Bo used it, it was even more murderous than any Shaolin eminent monk. It was a move that completely abandoned all mercy and holding back, and only emphasized on power. In Murong Bo's hands, the power of the dignified Buddhist martial arts was greatly increased, but it also had a taste of advancing without retreating. Its killing power was extremely extreme. Even if the Shaolin eminent monk who created this martial art was still alive, he would still have to avoid its sharp edge. Unfortunately, his opponent was Chen Ong. Only Chen Ong could have a smile on his face. His face was always calm and at ease, as if there was a deep understanding in the unseen world. According to the legend of the Zen sect, when Buddhist nun Sakya preached on the holy mountain, he held a golden Buddha flower in his hand and showed it to everyone. Everyone was silent, only Kasyapa smiled. This was the pinching flower finger. Buddha held a flower, Kasyapa smiled. But Chen Ang's fingers were incomparably gentle. Every time his left hand flicked, it was as if he wanted to flick off the dewdrop on the flower in his right hand, but he was afraid to shake off the flower petals. Murong Bo did not see the power of the finger, but he felt a pain in his chest. His body also shot out and fell on the lake. The flower blooms to see the person sees me. This finger had already reached the state of being and not being. It was as if he had gained an epiphany. It was indistinct and could not be obtained. It had already reached the supreme state of being formless, colorless, and intangible. Even if the abbot of Shaolin Temple was here, he could only sigh in admiration. Chen Ong bent his finger and sat on the surface of the water. There was only a lotus leaf under him that served as a foil to him. He gently stroked it, and the silver threads in the sky fell down. They gathered together and condensed into a tangible force. With the drizzle as the strings and the world as the zither, he started playing softly. Chen Ong bent his finger and pulled on a silver thread. A soundless sound filled the air. The surface of the lake was like a huge speaker that started trembling slightly. Clang! A soft sound spread through the entire lake. Even Wang Yuyan, who was far away at Montua Villa, looked up in puzzlement. She asked softly, "Who's playing the zither?" Chen Ang's pupils were dark blue. All of his thoughts and senses stopped at that moment. Time seemed to have stopped. The drizzle falling, the calm surface of the lake, and the beautiful moonlight turned into a still picture at that moment. It instantly turned into eternity and then into eternity. Only the faint sound of the zither could be heard, as if it came from beyond the heavens. The drizzle that filled the sky gathered together to reveal the white moonlight. Was it real or just an illusion? An invisible hand gently moved the millions of strands of silver threads. That finger was like a flower. It was soundless, colorless, formless, but it could move the world. The sound of the zither could be heard, but it was also soundless. The melody surpassed the limits of human hearing, but when the lake trembled, people could still hear it. The invisible sound wave permeated the entire lake, and everything started to tremble, including Murong Bo's organs, blood vessels, meridians, and even his inner force. As Chen Eng's fingers danced, they trembled uncontrollably. Murong Bo's mind was muddled, and he could only dance randomly under the sound of the zither. Countless tiny and complicated energies seeped into his body, controlling, guiding, and even changing his inner force. Murong Bo was like a puppet that was easily controlled, from his body to his mind. In front of such a terrifying martial technique, the life-death talismans were just child's play. Controlling a person's life and death was not scary, but controlling a person's mind was extremely horrifying. The bewitching origin power was born from the sound of the zither, and it was more powerful than any other mental technique. It changed Murong Bo's mind. As he danced more and more crazily, the invisible energies controlled him more and more tightly, and the sound of the zither gradually reached a climax. In the end, with the sound of the zither string snapping, everything fell silent and everything calmed down. The drizzle fell again, and the moonlight gradually became blurry. It was drowned in the rain, and it seemed like nothing had happened. Chen Ong waved his hand and sighed. Chapter 72. In the Hall of Great Strength, under the golden Buddha statue with a kind face, several old monks with white hair and beards lowered their heads, silent. The atmosphere was very depressing. In front of them, there were several things. A bent Buddhist staff, a broken Buddhist commandment blade, half a broken copper alms bowl, an iron lotus seed, a removed door plank, and a few other inconspicuous things. After a while, there were hurried footsteps outside the hall. A few senior monks of the Xian generation walked in quickly. They put their palms together and greeted the abbot and the several presidents. They said in a deep voice, "Abbot, you summoned us in such a hurry. Did something big happen?" Xian Ci turned to the president of the commandment yard, Master Xian Ji, and said, "Junior brother Xian Ji, please explain the reason to us." Xian Ji replied, "Yes." He took 2 steps forward. He was in charge of the commandments, and had always been impartial. All the monks in the temple feared him, so his words carried more weight. He said in a clear voice, "I don't know if you remember that the imperial court once sent someone to inform us to restrain the monks, strictly check the commandments, and obey the 36 martial prohibition orders." Xian Yin bowed and said, "The imperial court strictly investigated the illegal activities, but it did happen." Xian Ji sighed and said, "Previously, Monk Ji Guang sent a letter to the abbot and told him about a very urgent matter. The imperial court suspected that someone in Shaolin was colluding with the Xianbei Murong clan, intending to provoke the war between Liao and Song. The commander-in-chief of the Forbidden Martial Hall, Chen Ong, was entrusted by the emperor to go to Shaolin on the 15th of May. At that time, more than half of the famous martial artists in the world will come to Shaolin to be witnesses." The monks were silent. Only Xian Yin sighed and said, "We were also deceived. This matter only needs to be explained to the imperial court." Alas! First, there were foreign monks from India and several Vedanta from Mount Wutai who asked us about the theft of scriptures from Polo Star. Then, the Forbidden Martial Hall came to investigate the case of Yanmen Pass. Shaolin is unfair. Master Xianji picked up the Buddhist staff in front of him and said, "Not only that, do you know about Su Gu? Is it the one who committed the sin of lust and became a layman disciple, the one named Zhang Lai?" Master Xuandu frowned. "Yes, it's him. He also managed to make a fortune in his secular family. He was originally a Shaolin Temple disciple and diligently practiced martial arts. He could be considered the first in the Dharma courtyard. He even got the approval of junior brother Xian Nan to learn some of the true meaning of the breaking Buddhist commandment blade. Unfortunately, his 6 senses were not pure, so he went to the outer sanctum. His fierce tiger blade can be considered to have some prestige in the martial arts world. Master Xian Ji sighed. Evil creature. Xian Nan put his palms together and sighed. He closed his eyes and said nothing. Xian Yin said hesitantly, "It is said that the Six Fan School found out that he secretly killed his father-in-law's family and forced his wife to death. Then, he took over their family business. At the same time, he did many illegal things. He used his kung fu to eradicate the local rich families and made a lot of money. After the abbot heard about it, he immediately sent senior brother Xian Nan to clean up the sect." Xian Nan said bitterly, "That day, I heard that Xiao Feng was going to harm our temple, so I left to investigate. I asked junior brother Xian Su to capture that traitorous disciple on my behalf. I didn't dare to disobey him. Who knew that junior brother Xian Su was hot-tempered and clashed with the Martial Prohibition Hall experts who were sent to capture the criminal. Junior brother Xian Su did it for the sake of Shaolin's eternal reputation. Not only did the Martial Prohibition Hall capture my Shaolin disciple, but they also wanted to publicly decapitate him and announce his crimes. Think about how ignorant the common people would look at Shaolin if they knew that there was such a scum in Shaolin? Junior brother Xian Su only wanted to capture that traitorous disciple and hand him over to the Commandment Hall. But, Xian Nan said hesitantly, "What happened?" The hot-tempered Xian sure asked. But the Martial Prohibition Hall wasn't willing. They wanted to publicly sentence that person and have him tried in public. They wanted to compensate the victims with all of his wealth and confiscate the rest. That dragon stallion guard of the Martial Prohibition Hall even ridiculed, "Shaolin is like a dove that feeds on carrion. The flesh and blood of the people are all used by Shaolin." He also said, "Shaolin is cleaning up the scum of the sect, swallowing the property of Shaolin, and so on." In a moment of righteous indignation, Xian Su got into a conflict. "Nonsense." Xian Shi slammed the table and stood up, saying angrily, "Shaolin uses those ill-gotten gains to help the poor. We are monks, what use do these things have?" Master Xian Ji continued, "Junior brother Xian Su also thought so. He and the dragon stallion guard had a disagreement and started fighting. Even Su Gu didn't take the opportunity to escape, but went forward to help." Xian Nan said, "That evil creature still has a conscience." The other monks also nodded. They felt that although Su Gu deserved to die 10,000 times for his crimes, he still had a trace of true knowledge. Junior brother Xian Su's ordinary staff technique is very dignified, and Su Gu's Buddhist commandment-breaking blade is also very swift and fierce. But Xian Ji raised the Buddhist staff and the Buddhist commandment blade in his hands, gesturing, "Take a look." The copper Buddhist staff was as thick as a bowl, hard and heavy, but there was a clear handprint on it. It was a full 3 inches deep, as if it had been poured out. On the Buddhist commandment blade that was as cold as snow, there was a clear thumbprint at the edge of the blade. The monks all sucked in a breath of cold air. Xian Ji asked, "Junior brother Xian Kuei, can your Vajra strength finger leave a fingerprint on this refined steel?" "Junior brother Xian Kuei, can your Vajra strength palm leave a palm print on the copper staff?" Xian Kuei and Xian Kuei looked at each other, then simultaneously channeled their energy into their palms and pinched the two objects. After a long while, the two of them retreated, sweating profusely. The crowd went forward to take a look. Sure enough, there were 2 more finger and palm prints. However, the finger marks were blurry and the palm prints were only half an inch deep. The main hall fell into a deathly silence. Every Shaolin disciple had a grave expression on their faces. After a long while, Xian Yin said in a deep voice, "The experts of the imperial court are indeed extraordinary. How is junior brother Xian Su?" Junior brother Xian Su has been imprisoned by the Six Fan School for obstructing official business, and Su Gu. Xian Nan paused for a moment, then slowly said, "Someone broke his saber technique with 1 move, broke his saber with 2 moves, and took his life with 3 moves. Amit Ba Buddha." The monks chanted in unison. Su Gu is one of the best of the Su generation in Shaolin. He is also a first-class expert in Jianghu. In the Central Plains, the name of Fierce Tiger Saber can also be considered as a top figure. I didn't expect this, I really didn't expect this. Xianyin sighed, then asked, what about junior brother Xian Su? He also used 3 moves. Xian Nan said with difficulty. Xian Yin closed his eyes and did not speak. Xian Shi took over and said, I wonder if it is the commander of the Martial Prohibition Hall? Abbot Xian Ci raised his head, and the monks all looked at him. Xian Ci picked up the half-copper bowl in front of him and said, This is the copper bowl found under the palm of an outer sect disciple, peerless iron palm ruler. The muscles and bones in both of his palms were shattered. When the crowd saw the mark, a scene of a fist and a palm colliding appeared in their minds. This is an iron lotus seed dug out from between the eyebrows of an outer sect disciple, Luo Zhen, the 8-armed Luohan. 8-armed Luohan was a master of Shaolin's concealed weapons. Although he did not practice martial arts in Shaolin, his father was one of the top masters in Shaolin's outer sect. Even Xian Nan was taught by him. Luo Zhen's talent was even better than his father's. His concealed weapon skill made the thieves tremble with fear. However, the 6 Fan School had revealed that he was the greatest master of the Lulan Forest in the Central Plains. He controlled dozens of strongholds and mountains, and was the famous leader of the Lulan Forest in the Central Plains. There is also the door that Ghost Shadow killed, the chopsticks in Donor Zhou's hand, and the jade pendant on the chest of an outer sect disciple, Lu Chang'an. Xian Ci showed them one by one. Ghost Shadow was a master of lightness skill, but he was killed by a door. Iron Palm Zhou Chongguang's hands were pierced by a chopstick. Lu Chang'an, who was famous for his left and right flower-piercing hands, was hit in the chest by a palm. Even his jade pendant was not broken, but 13 of his ribs were broken. These were done by the commanders of the Martial Prohibition Hall? Xian Shi pointed at the pile of things in disbelief. How is this possible? The Martial Prohibition Hall is so powerful. No. Xian Ci sighed and said, most of the commanders of the Martial Prohibition Hall went to Xixia to suppress the Class 1 Hall. Even Eunuch Tong, one of the 2 commanders, personally went there. He led 13 commanders to chase after the old princess of Xixia to Tianshan. The other commander, Huang Shang, suppressed the martial arts world in Jiangnan. And their military governor, Chen Ang. Xian Ci could not help but pause. The Shaolin monks also narrowed their eyes, as if this name had some magic power. Xian Ci hesitated and said, He is in the Murong family of Gusu. He did not say what Chen Ang had done, but just vaguely dealt with this part. There are only 2 commanders in the martial arts world of the Central Plains, and both of them are staying in Shaolin. Xian Ci could not help but smile bitterly. These 2 commanders living in the lower house of Shaolin were not so much staying as monitoring. The closer it was to the Shaolin assembly on the 15th of May, the more closely they monitored. The Shaolin monks were dissatisfied with this. Someone snorted coldly. Xian Yin pretended not to hear it. He asked, could it be that the one who did it was not from the Martial Prohibition Hall? It was the 4 super arresters of 6 Fan School, cold-blooded and ruthless, and iron hand chase. But aren't they chasing fugitives on the black list everywhere? You don't have to guess anymore. Xian Ci sighed and said, it was just an ordinary dragon stallion guard. How is it possible? The masters of the Shaolin Temple, their meditation skills destroyed, stood up one after another. Their faces were livid. Although they had thought of this possibility, no one dared to believe it. Now that Abbot Xian Ci had pointed it out, how could they believe it? Before they could come to a conclusion, a disciple hurriedly came to report, Abbot, Chief, something bad has happened. Master Shinshan of Mount Wutai and Master Ziluoxing of Tianzhu are going down the mountain and have a conflict with the Martial Prohibition Hall. Chapter 73. Mount Wutai's Qing Liang Temple's Shin Shan Shangren was very famous in the Wulin world. Together with Reverend Xian Ci, they were known as the Subduing the Dragon and Subduing the Tiger, Tu Luoan. In terms of martial art skill, it was said that Shin Shan Shangren was above Abbot Xian Ci. When such a person clashed with the forbidden martial hall, it was natural that the Shaolin Temple would be badly battered. Those who came were not only the exalted ones from the Divine Mountain, but also Reverend Guanxin of the Grand Xianghua Temple in Kaifeng Prefecture, Reverend Daoqing of the Pudu Temple in Jiangnan, Reverend Juexian of the Donglin Temple on Mount Lu, and Reverend Rongji of the Jingying Temple in Chang'an. Even if their kung fu skills were not that high, they were respected enough, not to mention that their kung fu skills were not inferior to Xian Ci's. However, these masters were now tightly blocked and couldn't move at all. In front of them, a young man wearing a flying fish red robe blocked the way with a smile. Although his face was warm, the knife in his hand was raised without any trace of politeness. Most people would be more polite when they saw monks, but these two did not even have the slightest hint of apology on their faces. Xian Ci put his palms together, bowed and said, "Benefactors, why are you standing in front of these reverends? They are not people of Shaolin, they are Buddhist monks. Now that we are going down the mountain, would the benefactors please make way for us? Lao Na thanks you." "Greetings, Master." A young man with a young and inexperienced face clumsily put his palms together and said, "The governor has given the order that before the Shaolin Temple assembly, martial artists are only allowed to enter Mount Shaosher and are not allowed to leave. Since all of you are well versed in martial arts, I would like to trouble you to wait until the 15th of May before leaving." "We don't have time to wait for him." Great Master Xin Shan's expression was gloomy. He was short, but his voice was surprisingly loud. "I don't know which military governor you are. I'm an otherworldly person, so I'm not under his jurisdiction. Get out of my way." "Master, you're an otherworldly person. But not just monks, even bodhisattvas have to be controlled by us." The young man replied with a smile, "In our imperial court, not to mention the secular world, even the positions of the gods and Buddhas in heaven have to be decided. A few days ago, the commander-in-chief said that the Jade Emperor was an obscene sacrifice and asked the imperial court to revert to God Hao Tian. May I know which god you are worshipping, and have you obtained our permission?" "You!" Master Xin Shan was infuriated. "How should I address you, benefactor?" Xian Ci hurriedly mediated. "I am Duo Half-Bodied, the third Yellow Commander of the Martial Prohibition Hall's stalwart Dragon Guard. Greetings, Grand Master Xian Ci." Another commander beside him cupped his fists towards them and said, "More than half." His face was dark and his expression was indifferent. It was unclear whether it was because he didn't like to talk or because he didn't want to pay attention to Xian Ci. Xian Ci was taken aback and asked hesitantly, "Your names?" These two people's names, no matter how one looked at them, didn't seem to be normal people. Not to mention Xian Ci, the other grandmasters also had some doubts. Xian Shi bluntly said, "You two should report your real names. The grandmasters are of virtue and prestige, they won't argue with you." "You misunderstood, this is my real name." The young man laughed and said, "I was originally called 9-2.5, because my father sold me to a salesman for 6 taels of silver. After the commander-in-chief rescued me from the devil's den, he said, 'I'm called 9-2.5, but I was only sold for 6 taels. Your father didn't know how to count, so he called me Duo Half.'" The dark-faced young man next to him said 2 more words, 4 taels. Xian Ci thought for a while and then realized that he had been sold for 4 taels, which was more than half of the young man next to him. These two people's names were really rough. "Amit Ba." This old monk misspoke. Xian Ci chanted the name of Buddha. "May I know your original secular names? This old monk can also address you." Xian Ci felt that this was not appropriate and asked aloud. "My original name was Ben-In." Benefactor's name is very Buddha-like. Xian Si revealed a warm smile. That's natural. The young man smiled and said, This is the name my father asked the Grandmaster on the mountain to give me. I think it's the temple's Grandmaster Xian Tong. The few people turned around in surprise and saw Xian Tong nodding slightly, indicating that it seemed to be the case. Before they could say anything, they heard the young man say slowly, Unfortunately, my father owed rent to the Shaolin Temple, and the supervisor kept urging him to pay, so he had no choice but to sell me. The salesman sent me to the acrobatic garden and made me an actor. Although he was still smiling, the faces of the Shaolin Temple's eminent monks were already extremely ugly. What kind of place was the acrobatic garden? To put it nicely, it was an actor. But everyone knew that the boys there were actually lowly catamite. This kind of thing made them feel bad. Xian Si could only smile and said, Benefactor, you are really lucky to escape from the abyss of bitterness. I don't know if you have reunited with your family. So Grandmaster, just call me Duo Half. The young man put his palms together and said, As for my parents, I have visited several neighbors recently. They said that during the drought a few years ago, they couldn't pay the rent and were driven out. They must have died in some corner. When he said this, there was no sadness on his face. No one knew whether it was because his tears had dried up or because he was not close to his parents. The Shaolin Temple didn't dare to think so much. They only thought in their hearts, this is not good. One after another, their expressions became vigilant. Only Xian Tong opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but his expression became gloomy. There was an indescribable expression in his eyes as he looked at more than half-bodied. It seemed benevolent and guilty at the same time. However, more than half-bodied sensed something, and turned his head away as he looked at him. Great Master Shen Shan sneered several times and said in a loud voice, This humble monk has admired the Shaolin Temple for a long time. Today's visit has really broadened my horizons. The hostility in his words made the Shaolin Temple's eminent monks turn solemn. But then they heard Duo Half slowly say, Mount Wutai is in no way inferior. More than half of the people around me were born at the foot of Mount Wutai. I have heard of your great name for a long time. Great Master Shen Shan felt as if his neck was being squeezed, and he didn't make any sound. Was there anyone else's land at the foot of Mount Wutai other than their temple of Qingliang? He waved his sleeves in annoyance and said, I don't care what your names are. Don't even think about stopping me today. He waved his sleeves as he said this, and rushed forward. The people of Shaolin Temple turned pale with fright when they saw this. They hadn't expected that such an eminent monk wouldn't have the slightest bit of willpower. Xian Tong cried out in alarm, Watch out! He looked on helplessly as Great Master Shen Shan exerted his strength in his arms, and rammed against Duo Half. How could Mount Wutai's art of heart and qi be a small matter? The force of this blow was probably heavier than that of an elephant. In fact, even Xian Tong wouldn't be able to avoid breaking his bones and muscles, let alone a young man like Duo Half. Great Master Shen Shan swept his sleeves like an iron broom. It was powerful enough to scrape off a layer of flesh from a person's face. However, Duo Half's expression didn't change in the slightest when he faced the force of this blow. It seemed as if his skin had been coated with a layer of gold paint. It quickly turned into a clear golden color, and was suffused with a metallic luster. Great Master Shen Shan's blow seemed as if he was fanning him. His sleeves hit Duo Half's face, and exploded into tattered rags. Indestructible Vajra divine art! Great Master Shen Shan exclaimed in shock. However, a golden arm grabbed his neck before he could say anything. He felt as if a steel ring was wrapped around his neck, and he couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried. So, he shot a meaningful glance at Xiraxing, who was standing beside him. The Indian divine monk's arm seemed to have doubled in length as he grabbed Duo Half's arm. His body seemed to have no bones at all, and he used an unfathomable angle to perform a strange move. It was so strange that it was hard to believe. The Shaolin Temple monks were well aware that such a strange move couldn't be avoided under such a sudden situation. However, Duo Half didn't seem to have any intention of dodging. He lifted Great Master Shen Shan up and stretched out his hand to hit a boulder nearby. He didn't allow the Indian monk to hit him, but only a loud clanging sound could be heard. It was as if he had hit a bronze statue. Great Master Shen Shan was hit hard against the boulder, and his face was covered with blood. However, the young man didn't stop. He continued to hit Great Master Shen Shan's head against the boulder. The people of Shaolin Temple were so shocked that their limbs went limp. It wouldn't matter if Great Master Shen Shan was hit once or twice, but Great Master Shen Shan might not be able to survive a third time. Before they could act, they heard the Indian monk scream in pain. Duo Half's hand seemed to be holding a ball of fire, and Zerua Xing screamed in pain. Half of his body was scorched black, and the other half was covered in a layer of white frost. Zerua Xing couldn't resist at all, and could only struggle in vain. His bones could drill through any part of the wall, but he couldn't escape Duo Half's simple grasp. At this moment, no one from Shaolin Temple dared to step forward. Although these two were young, they were already top-notch experts in Jianghu. They didn't have the internal energy of Great Master Shen Shan, and neither did they have the strange moves of Zerua Xing. Therefore, they could only look at Abbot Xian Ci. Only Xian Tong stepped forward to meet them. Duo Half didn't make a move. He handed the sacred mountain to Xian Tong and said, "Sorry to trouble you, Great Master. We didn't want to do this, so please don't make things difficult for us." The Shaolin monks lifted the sacred mountain and said, "It's no big deal. It's no big deal." Xian Ci lowered his eyebrows and said, "Shaolin Temple will obey the imperial court's orders." He looked at the half-dead Xeroxing and said, "My friend from India, it was an unintentional mistake. Please forgive him." Half-bodied tossed Xeroxing to the ground like he was a piece of trash, not even sparing him a glance. Xian Nan saw that the two were about to turn around and leave, so he couldn't help but ask, "Benefactor, is that martial art of yours the Vajrabadi?" Duo Half turned around and said with a smile, "It's the extreme titanium body of the Martial Prohibition Hall's 36 ultimate technique. It's not the Shaolin Temple's Vajrabadi." As he said this, the metallic luster of his skin flowed like water, and his wriggling muscles looked like they were alive. Indeed, it wasn't the Shaolin Temple's martial arts. The two of them rested not far away from the Shaolin Temple, as if nothing had happened between them and the Shaolin Temple. The Shaolin Temple monks looked at each other. If a commander was already so powerful, then what about the other two lieutenants and even Governor Chernong? The monks didn't dare to think about the four great villains and the cult leader of the Ming cult. Xian Ci sighed and said, "Shaolin Temple. Shaolin Temple." Chapter 74. Xiao Feng saw the bustling crowd of beggar clan disciples, supporting each other as they walked toward Mount Shaoshi. He knew that today was the day when the imperial court and Shaolin would discuss important matters in the Wulin world. He remembered the happy days when he and his beggar clan brothers ate wine and drank meat together, but now they were like enemies. His mood was complicated. At this moment a slender hand grabbed his rough palm. Zhu leaned on him and softly asked, "Xiao Dai, what are you thinking about?" Xiao Feng held her hand tightly and laughed heartily. "I am thinking that from now on, the Xiao is no longer a lonely lowly person who is looked down upon by other people. In this world, there is at least one person, there is one person." He looked at Zhu's bright as stars eyes. Momentarily he was speechless. "There is one person who respects you, admires you, is grateful to you, is willing to stay by your side forever and ever, generation after generation, to endure hardships, humiliation, hardships and hardships together with you." Zhu looked at him. There was something in her words. It was so thick that it could not be dispelled. Xiao Feng's heart was surging with something that he could not describe. He felt that with her company, Even if the road ahead was a mountain of daggers or a sea of fire, he would be willing to endure it. There is a tea shed ahead. This place is not far from Mount Shaoshi. Let's go take a rest. Seeing the shed ahead, Xiao Feng said to Zhu with a smile. The two of them entered the tea shed together. The waiter hurriedly came forward and said, "Are the two distinguished guests of Shaolin?" "Yes, we are going to Shaolin." Xiao Feng laughed and said. He had never cared about his status, whether it was peddlers, pawns, or waiters begging for food. He always had the utmost respect. Hearing this, the waiter beamed with joy. He handed over a slip of paper and said, "Then this must be for you." Xiao Feng opened the slip of paper and saw the first line, "Mr. Zhua." He hastily closed the slip of paper and thought, "This is not for me, the waiter must have made a mistake, I must not read it anymore." He handed the slip of paper to the waiter and said, "This is not for me, brother Xiao you have made a mistake." When the waiter heard this, he immediately frowned and scratched his ears and cheeks in distress. That guest left a note and left. He only said that he was going to give it to someone who could tell that he was an extraordinary man. "I've waited here for 3 days and only saw you," the guest. "You're worthy of those words. If not, then what should we do?" When Zhu heard the words extraordinary, her eyes narrowed. A girl may not be very happy when others praise her, but when someone praises her lover, her heart feels like it has eaten honey. She said in a good voice, "Which guest left the note?" "Xiao Go, why don't you tell us?" The waiter finally found someone who was willing to listen to his grievances. He served tea to the two people, pointed to an official road on the side and said, "A few days ago in the afternoon, 2 groups of people came to my tea shop. They were all Jianghu heroes with sabers and swords. These past few days there have been a lot of people like this, I didn't care. In any case, the government officials were not far away, they didn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Until I heard a guest's greeting, I got up and went out to help him tie up his horse. When I looked up, I saw that the guest had a beard, leopard's eyes and tiger's eyes. He looked very awe-inspiring." Xiao Feng thought, this must be the person who left the note. The waiter waited for 3 days, but did not take a fancy to any of the Jianghu heroes who passed by. As soon as he saw that person, he was so shocked. It can be seen that this person is also an extremely extraordinary man. Xiao Feng was immediately delighted and asked, "Did he say his name?" "He did not." The waiter frowned and said, "As soon as that guest saw the 2 groups of people in the tea shop, he laughed loudly and said, 'The swarm of bees on the yellow granite hill, I have finally found you.'" The swarm of bees on the yellow granite hill. When Xiao Feng heard this, he frowned deeply. This group of people were the famous scum of Jianghu. They were bandits that everyone wanted to beat up. They knew that there were many people who wanted to take care of them by any means possible, so they never stayed in one place for too long. Wherever they went, it was a tragic scene that angered both man and God. Because they were roaming about and committing crimes, their martial arts were high, and they had the advantage of numbers. Those who sought revenge and could not bear to see their evil deeds, often when a group of people could not find them, one person would go up and become a ghost under their saber. This group of people was incomparably clever, they were vicious in their work, and they had been free and unfettered for a long time. Xiao Feng also wanted to eradicate these scum, but their whereabouts were uncertain, and the beggar clan had a lot of matters to attend to. In the end, it was left unsettled, and this was a matter of regret in his heart. That brother is alone, he is in danger. Xiao Feng knew that the swarm of bees were proficient in joint attacks. When they joined hands, ordinary martial arts masters would not be able to last one round. He could not help but be secretly worried. The waiter continued, "That guest is very powerful. He used the chopsticks on my table and nailed down 3 people. Each of them was pierced through the right eye. I sat here, but that guest did not attack me. Instead, he led that group of people outside." Zhu cried out in alarm. She was holding a chopstick, which was made of light bamboo wood. It was extremely swift, not to mention using it as a hidden weapon. Even if she raised her hand and threw it, it would be blown away by the wind. To be able to use such a thing to nail 3 yellow bees to death, this kind of martial arts was really frightening and formidable. Good! Xiao Feng laughed loudly and said, "Good man, if I meet him, I will definitely drink 3 big bowls of wine with him. This kind of heroic spirit is enough to go with the wine." When the waiter heard this, he also clapped his hands. He took out a jar of local sorghum wine from behind and poured a bowl for Xiao Feng. This wine was very coarse, but Xiao Feng did not care and drank it in one gulp. "Good hero, I have seen martial artists coming and going, but only you and that guest looked at us seriously," the waiter said excitedly and poured another bowl for Xiao Feng. "That group of bees are not good people, they are very despicable. Some people used fishing nets and iron chains to entangle them, some people used hidden weapons to throw them from afar. I hid in the back and saw that they were very skilled in coordination. Many people went up together, I was worried. With so many people going up, even if that guest had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would not be able to handle it." Xiao Feng laughed and said, "Hearing you say that, my heart was somewhat relieved. Since you said that, I believe that brother will definitely make a spectacular move and beat the swarm of bees until they piss in their pants." Although his words were vulgar, when the waiter heard it, it was incomparably intimate. "Isn't it piss in their pants?" That guest stretched out his hands and grabbed the fishing nets and ropes in his bosom. With all his strength, those people who were pulling the ropes flew up and blocked the hidden weapons. The waiter said excitedly, "Oh my God, with just one lift, 4 or 5 people flew up. I'm afraid that he has the strength of 1,000 jin. Such a good man, such good martial arts, it's a pity that I have not been able to see it." Xiao Feng drank another bowl and sighed. That group of bees, the one in the lead was an evil man with a scar on his face. When he saw me hiding in the back, he grabbed me and pushed me in front of him, saying, "That guy, if you are not worried about his life, then come up." At that time I thought, it's over, this time it's over. In my heart, I thought that I would definitely die. "Sir, when you encountered such a situation, do you think that you would care about a waiter like me?" Xiao Feng laughed heartily and said, "Since it is an innocent person, I would rather die than bring disaster to other people's lives. That's why I said that as soon as I saw you, sir, I knew that you were a hero that I have never seen in my life. That guest was the same as you. When he saw me in front of him, he did not use his palm to strike back, nor did he use his hidden weapons to counterattack. He only blocked left and right and knocked down a few people." The waiter was moved and said, "It's a pity that those people are even more despicable than I imagined." Xiao Feng slammed the table and frowned, saying, "Are they using you to threaten that brother?" "That's right." That scar-faced boss hid behind me and said to that guest, "Quickly stop, or else I will kill this person." That guest replied, No, if I stop, I will become a ghost under your knife. This way, that little brother may not be able to escape with his life, and you will harm even more people. I might as well kill all of you one by one. If the little brother is unlucky, I will give him a grand burial and cut my throat in front of his grave to pay for his life." Xiao Feng was so excited that he drank 3 bowls of wine and said, "If I encountered such a thing, I could only do the same. How could I let an evil person escape with his life and harm even more people? It's just that I can avenge you, but there are people who love me who cannot pay for your life." The waiter said, "How could I want that? I only wished that I could roar, 'Hero, you can avenge me. If you can save one person, consider it as paying for my life.'" Unfortunately, my mouth was covered and I could not say anything. The funny thing was that the scar-faced man's hands and feet turned cold when he heard this, but he pretended to be fierce and said, "Tie your hands and I will let him go." Ah Zhu anxiously looked at the waiter and thought, "How can there be such a thing? To tie one's hands in front of these evil people, isn't that the same as throwing away one's life?" Xiao Feng's expression did not change. He calmly listened. That guest saw that the evil people had the heart to fight to the death. So he simply picked up the iron chain under his feet and wrapped it around his hands 3 times. The scar-faced man did not comply and wrapped it 3 more times. The scar-faced man saw that he had the upper hand and went back on his words, saying, "It's not enough for you to tie your hands, you have to tie all 4 of your limbs." Xiao Feng sighed and said, "That brother must have done it, because if he did not, those people would not be able to take advantage of him and would think that they have a chance of winning, so they would still want to take your life. Only when those people think that they have a chance of winning will they relax their vigilance." The waiter said, "Exactly. I saw that guest tie his whole body and was puzzled. Later on I thought that if the guest tied his hands, the group of evil people would feel that they were no longer a threat, so they would probably kill him. But if the guest did not tie his hands, those people would think that they were going to die, and there was a 50% chance that I would be killed, so I really could not advance or retreat. Those evil people took a thick layer of iron chain. Even an angry King Kong would not be able to struggle free. At that time I thought, those evil people are raising the stakes bit by bit, just like gambling. In the end, the guest and I unknowingly lost everything. Presumably that scar-faced man also thought the same, so he let go of my neck and laughed complacently. This is a moment that I will never forget for the rest of my life." Xiao Feng and Ah Zhu both looked at him. The red cloud on the waiter's face disappeared. He grabbed the wine jar next to him and poured it into his mouth. Xiao Feng laughed heartily and clinked his bowl with his. The 2 of them looked like friends. Xiao Feng heroically said, "Drinking wine with a good man is one of life's greatest joys." Chapter 75. The waiter beamed with joy and said excitedly, "I have a lowly status, how can I be called a hero? Sir, you are willing to drink with me. How delightful, delightful. Since when do heroes care about status? I was just a beggar before, and now I'm a chitin barbarian. What status do I have to look down on others?" Xiao Feng laughed and said, "Now that you know I'm a chitin, do you still want to drink with me? So what if you're a chitin? I'm willing to admire and imitate the kind of person I'm willing to follow. I've even thrown the rules to the back of my mind, let alone a mere status. Are there no good people in chitin?" The waiter said excitedly. Xiao Feng was overjoyed. The 2 of them drank to their heart's content. They felt that the grievances and frustrations of the past had all been thrown to the back of their mind. Those evil people are arrogant and proud, but they don't know that heroes and warriors can't be locked up and bound. With a flick of his arm, the customer broke a section of the iron chain. Holding it in his hand, he swung it and smashed those bugs and wasps into pieces. I heard a strong gust of wind sweeping past my head. That scarred face turned red and white, splashing all over my body. "Delightful, delightful." Xiao Feng laughed. That guest looked at me and trembled. He brought me a pot of hot tea from the back, took off his clothes and draped them over me. He wiped the dirt off me and said, "Little brother, I'm sorry for what happened today." I thought at that time there was nothing to be sorry about. If he was willing to apologize to me, I would be willing to die. I saw that his clothes were leaking out. It was a red flying fish robe. I've seen this before. The people on the road are all officials of the great song. Sir, have you seen such a good official? Xiao Feng sighed and said, "This must be the Martial Prohibition Hall. Their governor cleared my name and found my greatest enemy. I didn't expect the great song officials to have such a good man. The Martial Prohibition Hall has a bad reputation, but I've never heard of them offending the common people. Thinking about it today, with such a good man, the Martial Prohibition Hall must not be an evil place. To have such a good man, their governor, Chen Ong, must be an extraordinary person." The waiter said, "I've seen their commander-in-chief before." "What kind of person is he?" Xiao Feng asked curiously. "I didn't see him, but I heard his voice." After the guest finished tidying up, a llama came from afar. Seeing the guest's clothes, the llama launched a sneak attack. That llama's martial arts skill was very powerful. The guest's feet were not removed from the iron chains, so he was at a disadvantage. I wanted to raise my hand to splash hot tea on his face. I didn't expect that the llama would wave his sleeve and send the tea back. The tea brushed past my face and hit the wall. He said, "You are a song man, I won't lower myself to your level." He raised his hand and sent out 3 streams of saber chi, smashing the tables and chairs in my shed into pieces. When I got closer, I felt a gust of hot wind blowing on my face. "Jiuemoji!" Aju exclaimed. "That's him. I've heard his name before." The waiter said, "His martial arts skill is very good. His bare hands can chop the iron chains. He can chop gold and cut iron. The guest's feet are inconvenient, so he moved around and sent out saber energy from afar. In a short while, the guest was forced to block left and right. His energy was depleted. At this time, I heard a voice. On the road, the voice came from afar. I couldn't see the man's shadow, I only heard him say, "Jiuemoji, you came here." The llama was so scared that his face turned pale. He abandoned the guest and wanted to run away. But before he could move, he was hit and fell to the ground. He was lying on the ground, unable to move. I looked over and saw a small stone embedded in his chest. If not for that llama's chest was still moving up and down, I would have thought he was dead. But no matter how I called him, he did not respond. I boldly slapped him, but he did not respond. I felt his pulse, it was very strong. This person was hit by a stone and stopped breathing. Xiao Feng suddenly realized. That llama's martial arts skill is not low, but he was not this man's match and was knocked unconscious by a stone. That Chun Ang's martial arts skill, how powerful is it? I know that Jiuemoji, Aju said. He is my family's Laoi's good friend. He captured Duan Gongzi and brought him to Swallow's Dock. I heard Duan Gongzi said that he single-handedly forced the eminent monks of Dali's Tian Long Temple to burn their ancestral sword manual. I have seen him fight several times, each time he easily took down his opponent. He is a very formidable man. I remember that Chun Ang is in Swallow Dock. Aju, you escaped from there. What kind of person is he? Xiao Feng asked. Aju frowned. His martial arts skill is very frightening. If you have not seen it with your own eyes, you will never believe that there is such a frightening martial art in the world. But he looks young, only a few years older than young Master Duan. He speaks very gently, but sometimes he can anger people to death. When he talks to us, he is very gentle, but when it comes to young Master and the others, he is not polite at all. When Abai and I escaped, it was actually because they did not care about us. Except for a few family warriors, the maids and servants of Swallow Dock came and went as they pleased. I saw him reading several times, and he looked much more focused than young Master. I rarely saw him practice martial arts, but I often heard him play the zither. If you heard the sound of his zither, it would be hard to imagine that this kind of clear sound came from him. Thinking about it, I also don't know what kind of person he is. The waiter suddenly said, I have never seen him, but the guest respected him very much. I saw the guest carry the llama and shout twice from afar, Governor! His expression was very excited, and his eyes were full of admiration and joy. The guest looked at him from afar, then hurriedly returned to the room and said a few words to me. He asked you to help him deliver this note? Xiao Feng asked. He gave me some money, saying that it was to compensate me for my loss. He said that he had an appointment with someone here, but he could not go, so he left me a note, asking me to deliver it. The waiter replied. Then the person he entrusted didn't come. What will you do? Aju worriedly asked. I was entrusted by someone, so I have to be loyal. If he doesn't come, I'll wait for another 10 or 20 years, the waiter said with a smile. Xiao Feng frowned. How could that be? You are young, it is a good time. Let me help you see who is coming. He did not care so much and opened the note. On it was written, Mr. Zhua, seeing words is like seeing your face. The sun rises in the morning, why not change today's appointment to tomorrow's tomorrow? If people do not betray me, how can I betray them? Old debts of gratitude and enmity can be settled at any time. When brother comes again, it will be the day I travel far. The blood debt between the two families has been unresolved for a long time. Vulture Palace has already become yesterday's flower, the main evil has been eliminated. Brother, taking out your anger on the innocent is not a gentleman's thing. Hui Jian sect, brother will be the sect leader. Regarding the arranged battle, let it be like flowing water, not letting down my reputation. Only the word loyalty shines through the ages. Lu Ning bows his head. Xiao Feng suddenly said, So, his name is Lu Ning. I know this person, he is the son of the former Hui Jian sect leader. This Mr. Zhuo must be his apprentice brother Zhuo Bufan. According to the letter, it seems that because of the matter of the sect leader, he arranged a battle with Zhuo Bufan, but he refused to go. This battle seems to be related to Vulture Palace? A Zhu said, What is there to not understand? Presumably, this Lu Ning does not care about the position of sect leader, and even feels guilty towards Zhuo Bufan. He only fought for the position to stop him from killing the innocent. Now he does not want to compete with my apprentice brother, so he travels far away to avoid him. Xiao Feng sighed. He is indeed affectionate and loyal. Little brother, I don't know when this Zhuo Bufan will come. Do you really want to wait? I will wait, but I believe that the guest will come again. The waiter smiled. What is your name? I will go up later and meet him, I will tell him. Xiao Feng asked. He was about to go to Shaolin, so he would probably see this Lu Ning. My name is Hongqi. The waiter said happily. The guest asked for my name, hero, just tell him my name. The two said goodbye to Hongqi and went straight to Shaolin. Before they reached the gate of Shaolin, they heard an uproar in front of them. Thousands of people were shouting noisily. Xingqiu immortal, good to heaven and earth, his power is unparalleled in the world. Several knights in flying fish robes stood in front of them. The order of the Forbidden Martial Hall. Anyone who takes another step will be killed. At that time, someone laughed and said, What is the Forbidden Martial Hall? How dare you block the way of the old immortal? The old immortal is mighty, why don't you quickly worship him? Only our Xingqiu sect can order others, how dare you order the old immortal? Ding Chuanxiu sneered and said, Who are you? Don't block my Dharma carriage. Get out of the way or you will die in vain. If you don't get out of the way, I won't make things difficult for you. Just drink my cup of ecstasy wine. He pondered for a moment. Seeing that the Forbidden Martial Hall was still waiting solemnly, he couldn't help but laugh. Good, good. It seems that no one in the Central Plains knows of my power for a long time. He raised his hand, and a strong wind mixed with poison hit the few people. The leading flying fish knight stretched out his hand and grabbed a pool of poisonous water in the strong wind. He didn't care and sprinkled it on the ground, giving off sizzling white smoke. He suddenly bowed to the people behind Ding Chuanxiu and got out of the way. Ding Chuanxiu was bewildered when he suddenly heard a voice behind him. Excuse me. Ding Chuanxiu's eyes focused, and he suddenly made a move. With a wave of his hands, he grabbed a disciple beside him and threw him towards the voice. But before he landed, he saw a cold light and a stream of light. Suddenly, he saw a silver light drill into his chest. But it was too fast and he couldn't see it clearly. He only felt a chill in his chest, and a bit of heat dissipated. His whole body was powerless. He stood on the ground weakly and his legs were weak. Even when that person walked past him, he didn't react. The group of Xingqiu sect disciples saw that person walk straight to the front of the flying fish knight. A few people cupped their fists and bowed, saying, Greetings, Commander-in-Chief. They went to the Shaolin Temple, but Ding Chuanxiu was still standing there motionless. They couldn't help but go forward and respectfully say, Old Immortal? That disciple carefully pulled on Ding Chuanxiu's sleeve and said, Old Immortal, Are we just going to let them go up? Before he could greet him, Ding Chuanxiu collapsed. Chapter 76. The disciples of the Xingxiu sect looked at Ding Chuanxiu, who was paralyzed on the ground, at a loss. In their minds, Ding Chuanxiu was as scary as a demon. Now that they saw the scene in front of them, 90% of them did not believe it. Of the remaining 10%, 90% thought that the sect leader was testing the loyalty of the disciples. However, there were some brave disciples among the disciples of the Xingxiu sect. Their eldest brother Zhai Xingzi secretly winked at Chu Chenzi, who nodded knowingly. He plucked up his courage, tiptoed over, and called softly, "Master? Master!" Chu Chenzi's back was covered in cold sweat. He took out all the courage he had since he was born and patted Ding Chuanxiu's shoulder. When his hand touched Ding Chuanxiu's shoulder, he suddenly froze. "How dare you?" Ding Chuanxiu's voice suddenly came. "Master, please spare my life. Immortal, please spare my life." The disciples of the Xingxiu sect were so scared that they knelt on the ground. Zhai Xingzi lay on the ground and kept kowtowing until his forehead was bleeding. The disciples of the Xingxiu sect kept kowtowing as if they were pounding garlic, and their faces were covered in blood. The disciples of the beggar sect could feel that the ground under their feet began to shake slightly. "Zhai Xingzi, how dare you? Are you going to dig out your eye yourself, or do you want me to do it myself?" The gloomy voice came to Zhai Xingzi's ears and scared him out of his wits. "I dare not trouble you, immortal. I dare not trouble you, master." He reached back and stabbed his left eye. Blood dripped from the wound, making him look like an evil Asura. Everyone present saw him destroy one of his own eyes without hesitation. His ruthlessness caused their hands and feet to tremble. Ding Chuanxiu, who could make him do such a thing, was even more mysterious in the eyes of the crowd. "Destroy the other one, too," the gloomy voice said again. Under the sharp pain, Zhai Xingzi became more clear-headed. He actually heard a hint of a smile in the voice of his master. He struggled out of Ding Chuanxiu's shadow and found that Ding Chuanxiu was still lying on the ground, motionless. "Hurry up and do it," that voice urged, but Zhai Xingzi suddenly jumped up and waved his hands. A poisonous wind blew down a group of disciples of the beggar gang. He reached out his hand and slashed at a strange girl in purple who was hiding in the crowd. "Ah Zi, you're courting death." Zhai Xingzi seemed to have gone mad. Enduring the sharp pain in his left eye, he used all his vicious moves to make Zi wish she was dead. Unexpectedly, 4 people suddenly rushed out and stood in front of Zi. Another middle-aged scholar supported Zi and said anxiously, "Zi, come back." He pointed with his right hand, and the pure one-yang finger broke Zhai Xingzi's poisonous palm. He pulled Zi back 4 steps and went into the crowd. "Zhai Zhai Zhai." Zhai Xingzi stepped back. Zhai Xingzi's hand. Zhai Xingzi's Xingzi and Xing's. In Zhan Xingzi's Zhan a Zhai Zed. Zhai Xingzi was furious when he saw Chu Chenzi standing stiffly in front of Ding Chuanxiu. He waved his hand and hit Chu Chenzi's back. Unexpectedly, Chu Chenzi was sent flying 10 feet away and fell on the ground. Dark purple blood flowed out of Chu Chenzi's gray eyes, nose, mouth. It was obvious that he had been dead for a long time. The crowd was shocked. They retreated dozens of steps and made a big circle around Ding Chuanxiu. Even Zi's face was gloomy. She was sure that Ding Chuanxiu was dead, but when she saw Chu Chenzi's miserable condition, she became more doubtful. Was such a scary old monster really dead? "Ah!" A heart-wrenching scream came out of Zhai Xingzi's mouth. The crowd was shocked to see that Zhai Xingzi pretended to be crazy and killed people everywhere. His eyes, nose, mouth were covered with blood, and purplish blood oozed out of his mouth and nose. His martial arts were 10 times more powerful than usual. Mo Yunzi couldn't get away from his grasp. The disciples of Xingxiu sect didn't care about their old grudges anymore. They joined hands to deal with this eldest brother who was killing wantonly. But in a short while, those who were caught and injured by Zhai Xingzi also became crazy. In the blink of an eye, the huge Xingqiu sect was killed. Regardless of whether they were close or not, they killed anyone they saw. They didn't dare to let anyone near them. The beggar gang and the crowd were silent. They were shocked to see the bloody scene in front of them. There were no good people among the disciples of Xingqiu sect. Every one of them was a figure that the righteous sect wanted to get rid of. However, these righteous disciples were still shocked by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of disciples were killed and wounded in just a few breaths. Blood and flesh surrounded Ding Chuanxiu in a big circle. There was no Xingqiu sect disciple who was still conscious. There were only dozens of corpses killing each other. Silently, dozens of knights in flying suits appeared in the surroundings and watched quietly. It was not until a whistle sounded that all the corpses of Xingqiu sect fell to the ground as if they had lost their power. A smiling commander of the forbidden martial hall walked to Ding Chuanxiu, pried open his body, and took a swallowtail dart from his chest. Then, he turned around and walked toward the crowd. With every step he took, the people of Beggar Gang and the crowd took a step back. They were more than 300 feet away from him. He smiled and said, "Just now, Commander Tong ordered that anyone who takes one step forward will be killed without mercy. Now, those who deserve to die will not be pardoned. The commander is waiting for you in the hall. Please go ahead." He ignored the crowd, whose faces had turned pale, and shouted at the top of the mountain, "Monks, come out and clean the ground." His voice was not loud, but it clearly echoed in everyone's ears. Even Xian Ci, who was far away in the Mahavira hall, could not help but raise her eyelids. A few old monks sighed, chanted the name of Buddha, closed their eyes, and shook their heads. On the mountain road, a young girl in a commander's uniform looked at Chen Ong with a smile and said in a sweet voice, "Commander, how did I do? Does it suit the commander-in-chief? If you talk to me in this tone again, I'll kill you." Tong Guan. Chen Ang's expression was indifferent, but there was a kind of solemnity in his voice that could not be refused. Tong Guan believed that Chen Ong would really do what he said. She straightened her expression and said respectfully, "It's not that I'm pretending. It's just that the Sunflower Treasure Book has gradually deepened, allowing me to understand a layer of the transformation of heaven and man, as well as the beauty of the rhythm of yin and yang. I really feel that I've been living a hard life in the past. What power! Status! I've lost my mind and confused my mind. Only when Milord taught me this divine art did I realize that there was such a way of living in the mortal world. To think that there was such a taste in the filthy world of mortals. I suddenly felt that the scheming, the struggle for power and profit of the past were actually so laughable. The miraculous transformation of heaven and man, endless joy, this is the true meaning of this world." Tong Guan's every frown and smile was no different from that of a 16-year-old girl, exuding a charming charm. The surrounding dragon stallion guards stared straight ahead, unblinking as if they were facing a great enemy. To be able to cultivate the Sunflower Treasure Book to such a level, even I am shocked. I originally thought that you would at most cultivate to the realm of turning yin into yang and regenerating a male body, or perhaps an even lower realm, where yin and yang are indistinguishable. Who would have thought that you would actually cultivate yourself to become a woman? Chen Ong sighed. The Sunflower Treasure Book is a martial art of extreme yang. To be able to cultivate it to the point of extreme yang giving birth to yin is already extraordinary. I didn't think that you would be able to go even further and comprehend the harmony of yin and yang, the miraculous effect of the transformation of heaven and man. Neither male nor female, neither yin nor yang, neither mortal flesh nor mortal flesh, not a mortal man, but a celestial being born out of nothing, endlessly blissful. Tong Guan smiled tenderly and said, "Commander-in-Chief is not a mortal, you can't see through my outer appearance. Male appearance and female appearance, I don't have the appearance of myself, the appearance of all living things, and the appearance of longevity. Commander-in-Chief has already realized this. Why do you still care about these outer appearances? Since I've already realized this, why should I care about it? Whatever I put down, I will pick it up if I want to. Chen Ong smiled as he glanced at her, causing Tong Guan to feel a chill run through her body. She hurriedly lowered her head. I understand, Governor. Just now your attack was too brutal. The martial art that leaves no room for maneuver is only a killing weapon. It can't be what you rely on to climb the Tao of celestial beings. You originally had a strange idea, but unfortunately, it gradually went to the extreme. You don't care about the life and death note, but your martial art that imitates the life and death note may not be that exquisite. Chen Ong sighed. The yin and yang qi condensed into ice. The Vulture Palace has given me a big surprise. Tong Guan said guiltily. I didn't know that the old princess of Xixia had such a powerful helper. If it weren't for the fact that they were still scheming against each other at the critical moment of life and death, I might not have been able to defeat them. Governor, you have read all the martial art books in the Vulture Palace. You must know that I cultivated the 8 Desolation and 6 Directions Supremacy Kung Fu. That was why the extreme yang gave birth to Yin and broke away from the barrier of the Sunflower Treasure Book created by Governor. Originally, I wanted to create my own martial art, but after thinking about it, I couldn't leave the Sunflower Treasure Book. Only then did I realize that although Governor didn't fully master it, you left a shadow of further improvement. After all, my Tao of celestial beings is still in the shadow of Governor. Tong Guan took a deep look at Chen Ong and sighed. This martial arts power is passable, but it is still far from reaching the level of maturity to touch upon the great Tao. Compared to the Sunflower Treasured Manual, it is just a toy. The life and death note uses the yin and yang qi to touch the acupoints of the human body. But you can use my Golden Chamber's outline of the Golden Chamber's idea of the universe is a big human body, and the human body is a small universe, to guide the life and death note. Chen Ong nodded. Yin, 6 yang, and 9 qi. There are tens of thousands of kinds of qi. I comprehend yin and yang, but you categorize them as all things. You create many kinds of true qi and use them as medicine and poison. Although the qi poison was born from my disease true qi, your understanding of it is not inferior to mine. Ding Chuanxiu is just a minor poison master. You are overestimating him by using the qi poison to kill him. Chen Ong looked at the foot of the mountain and said, all qi poison uses qi as a carrier. Like maggots in the tarsal bones, it lives in the internal energy. If others sense it, the poison will be released. You use the internal energy of the Xingqiu faction as the base of the poison, so you don't have to worry about hurting others. You can spread it to 2 people, and it will be easy for you to kill the entire Xingqiu faction. Kill without mercy, Tong Guan said with a smile. If you use this martial art to study killing people, it will be such a waste. Chen Ong shook his head. Martial arts are not used to kill people. Bodhidharma didn't create a martial art that specializes in killing people, and neither did the unfettered one. If you can brew the wine of immortality with a different kind of true qi, wouldn't it be better than creating a martial art that kills millions? Poison. Tong Guan was stunned for a moment, then suddenly smiled like a peach blossom in spring. Military Governor is right, I have gone astray. In this world, I can kill people without using the qi poison, but I can't. She glanced at Chen Ong and continued, even if there are millions of qi poison, it will be of no use. This is indeed a useless martial art. It's a pity that this martial art of mine is practiced by the government's secret department. Although it is still a short time, and I don't plan to teach them more powerful methods, it is still a hidden danger. I don't want the whole world to be filled with madmen who practice killing martial arts and let the dignified righteous path decline. This martial art, let's call it heavenly net deception. I will make up for its missing parts. As one of the thousands of flowers in Jianghu, competing with the others for beauty is also a good thing. Chen Ong said with a smile. Tong Guan waved her hand and complained, the swallowtail dart is still a bit too heavy. It would be better if it were silver needles. Heavenly net deception, why don't we let them use silver needles as weapons? In a small space, life and death can be decided in an instant. It should be very suitable. Chapter 77. Buddha pinches flowers, Kassapa smiles. With the heart as the seal, it is not taught outside the sect. Shaolin was a place where martial arts were the most flourishing in the world. Its rules were extremely strict, which made people forget its other famous identity, the Zen sect, the ancestral court of the Han dynasty. Chen Ong stood in front of the Shaolin steel forest, observing these simple stone tablets. Behind him, a large group of martial arts people gathered outside the mountain gate. The skunda in the gate was held high, and the steel forest was full of famous calligraphers of the past generations. Many of them were carved by the eminent monks of the Zen sect. It was really a wonderful place. Unfortunately, these martial arts people did not have the same interest as Chen Ong. They had no interest in these simple characters. Instead, they widened their eyes and looked at the empty space behind the mountain gate. Of course, if Chen Ong told them that these inconspicuous stone tablets hid many traces of the martial arts left by the Zen sect, then it would be different. Without enough wisdom, even if there were peerless martial arts in front of them, what could they do? As before, he was completely blind and illiterate. Anyone who had been in Jianghu for a few days would have heard of Shaolin. Even if they were not martial arts people, as long as they had some knowledge, they should know about Shaolin. It was not only a sect in Jianghu, but also the ancestral court of the Zen sect. Abbot Xianxi was known as the tiger-taming arhat in the early years. But no matter how famous he was, people would only remember his identity, the abbot of Shaolin. Abbot Xianxi was respected for his strong martial arts. But Shaolin's Buddhism declined, leaving only the name of Shaolin. If Abbot Xianxi's martial arts were not good, Shaolin would not have the face to call itself the Holy Land of Martial Arts. 1,000-year-old temple rose and fell like this. Fortunately, this time, Shaolin did not have to bear such great pressure. Because their opponent was recognized as the most terrifying and powerful master in Jianghu for 100 years. It was a terrible force that had never existed in Jianghu. Western Xia's Class 1 Hall, Heaven Mountain's Spirit Vulture Palace, Jiangnan's Thunderbolt Hall, Sichuan's Tang Sect, the One Clan, and countless other famous sects of various sizes that could compare to Shaolin Temple were reduced to ashes before this powerful, crushing force. The 3 words, Martial Prohibition Hall, were like Mount Tai and the North Sea, pressing heavily on the hearts of everyone present. Behind this unconventional monster in the martial arts world stood an even more suffocating behemoth. The thing that they used to laugh at made everyone feel a deep pressure today. Someone sighed. The imperial court. The heroes of Wulin present, like commoners in the marketplace, sighed helplessly, lamenting the shadow and horror of this behemoth. It was not only because of the Central's awe-inspiring reputation for 1,000 years, but also because of the demon-like shadow behind it, who was now standing in front of the steel forest and looking at the calligraphy with great interest. Although there were 500 Shaolin monks behind Xianxi, facing Chen Ong, he still felt his scalp tingle. Before he could say anything, Chen Ong had already turned around and looked at the heroes of Wulin present. Almsgiver Chen, regarding the enmity between me and Murong family, I have already invited a few legendary figures to prove that Murong family's actions had nothing to do with Shaolin. We really did not know about the restoration of Xianbei, Xianxi said in a deep voice. He stood up and let the few legendary figures come up. It was still Zhao Qiansun, Zhi Guang and the others. Master Zhi Guang looked at Chen Ong and said, Almsgiver Chen, we meet again. Master Zhi Guang, how have you been? Chen Ong smiled and said, Sleep less, talk less, I only hope that Almsgiver Chen can give me peace. Master Zhiguang put his palms together and bowed deeply to the heroes present. He said, Almsgiver Shao, today is the day the truth will be revealed. The tragedy outside Yanmen Pass will come to an end today. Almsgiver, please come out for a chat, please come out for a chat. His voice reverberated in the field, and could be heard from tens of miles away. I am coming! A loud shout came from afar. After a few leaps, Xiao Feng arrived at the front of the mountain gate. Seeing his arrival, the heroes were in an uproar. Many shouts came from all directions. Xiao Feng, you bastard who killed your father, your mother and your master! Kill this dog! A real man dares to do what he does. If it was me who did it, I will take responsibility. If it was not me who did it, no one can pour dirty water on me. I am a real man, I dare to take responsibility for what I have done. Even if it was me who killed my father and mother, why wouldn't I dare to admit it? His words were stern. Everyone saw that he was tall and had a broad chest and thick arms. Between his brows, there was a natural majesty, and he actually had a calm expression. They muttered in their hearts, I have heard that Xiao Feng is a generous and straightforward person. Seeing him today, how could such a man be someone who hides his head and shows his tail? Could it be that we are really mistaken? Ba. Everyone, please listen to what I have to say. Master Zhiguang said slowly, I believe that Mr. Xiao, Elder Su, the Qiao couple and Master Xian Ku's death have other secrets. Everyone, please listen slowly. Everyone naturally believed in Master Zhiguang's prestige. They were immediately appeased and looked at the field. 20 years ago, the tragedy outside the Yanmen Pass was done by me and my men. Xian Ci sighed, I was deceived by others. I mistakenly believed the words of the scoundrel and caused Mr. Zhao's family to be innocent. All the sins are on me. What a pity! Chen Ong sighed. Abbot Xian Ci, it was an unintentional mistake. It is indeed a pity. Master Zhiguang shook his head and sighed. It is a pity that Abbot Xian Ci became a monk. If you became an official, there would definitely be a first-rank official position for you in the imperial court. Chenong said lightly, Abbot Xian Ci, you can speak slowly. There are still many sins after this. The sins of second Mother Yi, the wrongdoings of the Shaolin disciples, you have to bear all of them. I don't know if the sins are too light or your shoulders are too heavy. Hearing this, Xian Ci's body couldn't help but tremble. He could not stand still for a moment. He silently took a deep breath and closed his eyes, not daring to look at Chenong. What nonsense are you talking about? The hot-tempered Xian Shi said angrily. He grabbed the Buddhist staff beside him and was about to rush forward when he heard Xian Ci shout, Junior Xian Shi, stop! Nameless anger is the most harmful cultivation. Stand down. Xian Ci sighed, Mr. Chen is right. I am guilty, and it is a sin that cannot be washed clean even with all the water in the 4 seas. It is a sin that cannot be washed clean even with all the iron in the 9 continents. A great sin. Chen Ong said slowly, the Buddhist precepts are divided into basic precepts and Mahayana precepts. However, killing is the first precept and lust is the second or third precept. We Shaolin monks exterminate evil and protect the Tao. We uphold justice and eliminate evil. Even if we violated the precept of killing and fell into avicii, it was out of kindness and good deeds. If you use this to slander Abbot Xian Shi, you will only become a laughing stock. Xian Shi glared angrily and said sarcastically, even if Abbot Xian Shi committed the sin of killing, it is not your turn to speak. His words were magnanimous. Shaolin monks sacrificed many lives to exterminate evil and protect the Tao. Even though it was a pity to kill innocent people, the heroes present at the scene did not dare to say that they had never killed an innocent person. Master Xian Ci believed in evil and killed innocent people. Even though it was a pity, it was not an unforgivable sin. They all supported Xian Shi. Master Zhiguang also said, Even though Abbot Xian Ci is wrong, mister, you have gone too far. Abbot Xian sure has repented long ago. I only wish to resolve this ill-fated relationship with him. Benefactor Shao, this old monk's life is yours to take. With the heroes present as witnesses, they will definitely not blame you. I only hope that my life will be able to avenge your parents' blood feud. Blood for blood, blood for blood. Heroes, it is only right and proper for Mr. Shao to avenge his parents. Even if we die, we will not have any complaints. Zen Master Zhi Guang took a step forward and bared his bony chest. He said, "We have committed a grave sin by killing a good person by mistake. If everyone were to seek revenge for us, I will not be able to rest in peace even in the netherworld. Karma is retribution. Mr. Chen is right, I was wrong. Mr. Shao, I have let you down." Zhao Qiansun also sighed. He took off his shirt and revealed his hairy chest. He handed over a sharp knife and said to Xiao Feng, "I, Zhao Qiansun, have lived an ignoble life for decades. Every time I close my eyes, I can still see the tragic scene. Today, I have to pay for my life with such calmness. Xiao Wan, before you die, are you willing to sing for me those songs from the past?" Granny Tin covered her mouth and whimpered, "Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to do this? Outside Yanmen Pass, it was our fault. A good man dares to take responsibility for his actions. I, Zhao Qiansun, have forgotten my name all my life. From today onwards, I can calmly carve my name on my grave. Xiao Wan, carve my name on it. Who wants to carve your name? Who knows what it is?" Elder Tan was so angry that his eyes widened. He looked at Xiao Feng, then back at Granny Tan. For a moment, he did not know what to say. Then, Xian Ci opened his mouth, wanting to say something. He saw Chen Ong staring at him. He opened his mouth a few times, then closed it a few times. His face showed an extremely conflicted expression. 2 droplets of tears fell from the corners of his eyes. He choked, Mr. Chen. It was difficult to say everything. Xiao Feng took the knife and looked at Monk Zhiguang and Zhao Qiansun. His hands trembled slightly. He asked, "Decades ago, you killed my parents. Today, as their son, I, Xiao, will avenge them. Should I? Avenging one's father is right and proper. Mr. Chen should. Mr. Xiao, you should be enjoying the happiness of your family. The debt of blood that I have committed must naturally be repaid with blood. Mr. Chen, do it." Monk Zhiguang closed his eyes and said. Xiao Feng raised the knife and stabbed it down angrily. Everyone present cried out in surprise. Among them, only a woman's voice was the clearest. When everyone came back to their senses, they saw Monk Zhiguang's shocked expression. Only then did they see that the knife was buried in the ground in front of him. Only the handle was left outside. There were so many people here that the ground was harder than the bluestone. But now, the knife was buried in the ground. This palm strength could be said to be unparalleled. Could it be that Xiao Feng thinks that the knife is too sharp and wants to kill them with the dragon-subduing palm? Everyone thought. Only a Zhu looked at Xiao Feng with tears streaming down her face. Only she knew what kind of struggle Xiao Feng had gone through. Ah! Xiao Feng raised his head and screamed crazily. "In the past, my father did not kill you. Today, I will also spare your lives." After saying this, he could not continue. Zhao Qiansun and Zhi Guang looked down. They could not bear to look at him. Only Chen Ong kept staring at Xian Ci. He saw his face change from struggle to calmness. Xian Ci's eyes were calm. He raised his head and looked at Chen Ong. Chapter 78. No! A woman's scream came from the audience. The crowd was shocked. How could they have expected Abbot Xian Ci to do such a thing? Every move of the great Vajra palm carried the power of a dragon and elephant. Who in this world could block Abbot Xian Ci's sudden palm strike? Even a steel hammer as big as a head would leave a palm-sized handprint if it was hit by this palm strike. A person's skull was so fragile that it would be torn apart by this palm strike. This incomparably gruesome way of dying without an intact corpse made the crowd unable to bear to watch. They all turned their heads away. However, a seemingly unstable hand firmly blocked Xian Xi's palm strike. Everyone knew that when it came to palm energy, it was best to go straight. The dragon-subduing palm was already unparalleled in the world. Who would have thought that there was such a palm strike in this world? Although Xian Xi's palm strike was a backhand, it was moving from top to bottom. It was extremely smooth. However, the palm strike was moving horizontally and blocked the palm strike. Such a twisted and strange posture was actually able to withstand the peerless might of the great Vajra palm, a palm force that could split mountains and split rocks. Everyone looked at the hand. There was only one thought in their minds: is this a human or a ghost? That hand belonged to Chernong. He looked at Xian Xi with an indecipherable gaze. Abbot Xian Xi, you've been able to sleep peacefully all these years. You've been able to face your conscience calmly, but you can't face reality. Where's your determination? Chernong said indifferently. Buddha is merciful. Xian Xi retracted his hand and closed his eyes. Buddha is merciful and has delivered all living beings from suffering. Shaolin is the holy land of Zen Buddhism and has delivered many fools. I have seen all living beings, including those who are foolish and greedy, but all of them are obsessed with fame and fortune, losing their minds. Buddha is the enlightened one, and Shaolin is the ancestral court of Zen Buddhism. Shut up. What right do you have to tarnish Shaolin's reputation? The Shaolin monks stepped forward. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Shaolin Temple's reputation, Xian Xi, in your life, you've lost your true feelings, lost your discipline, lost your soul, lost your compassion, greed, obsession, anger, and arrogance. Wasn't it all for this Shaolin Temple's golden body? Clean and spotless, shining brilliance. What a golden body! What a good Shaolin reputation! Etiquette can kill people, so can a good reputation. It has killed many people, isn't it? Chernong laughed. Second Madam Yi. Chernong shouted at the crowd, since you're here, make it clear. The crowd opened up a path, revealing the figure of Yi Ernyang. It was unknown when her hair had turned white, and her face was covered with wrinkles. She was no longer as charming as she was when they first met. Where's my son? I know you have a trace of him. Have pity on me and tell me where he is. Second Madame Ye's eyes were confused. When she saw Chernong, she asked excitedly. In her hand, she was holding a tattered swaddling cloth. When Chernong saw the swaddling cloth, he understood. It seemed that Xiao Yuanshan had also taken action. But now that he was here, there was no need for him to personally take action. If I pity you, then who will pity those innocent children? Who will pity those parents who have lost their own flesh and blood? Do you want me to say Amitba, close my eyes and pretend that those innocent souls don't exist? Chernong asked with a smile. Among the heroes, there were not many who had enmity with Second Madame Yi. However, there were many who could not bear to watch her evil deeds. The mysterious corpse with a fiery temper had long been unable to restrain his anger. Because of Chen Ang's identity, he did not dare to directly attack. Why are you colluding with Second Madame Yi? Is Shaolin a place where a sinful person like her can come? The mysterious corpse shouted and suddenly pounced towards Second Madame Yi. His staff technique was refined. A long staff made of fine steel stirred up gusts of wind as it whizzed towards Second Madame Ye's head. Among the heroes, there were already people secretly cheering. The exorcism staff technique is indeed powerful. They originally thought that Second Madame Ye's martial arts were powerful and not below that of Xian Shi. They would definitely fight for dozens of moves. At that time, everyone would swarm up and kill that demoness. Unexpectedly, ever since Second Madame Yi appeared, she was in a daze. No one knew what she was thinking. Even when she saw the long staff coming towards her head, she did not react. Seeing that she was about to die under the staff, Xian Xi's face revealed a sorrowful expression. His hands trembled violently and tears flowed down his face. He raised the Vajra palm several times and put it down several times. In just a short moment, he actually repeated it 3 times. With one hand holding the Xianshi Buddhist staff, Chen Ong sighed and said, "Second Madam Yi, do you want to die? Ever since my child went missing, I have lost the meaning of living. All these years, I have been living in a daze. I just want to see him and ask him, all these years, how was he?" Second Madam Yi said woodenly, "Every time I see those people, their children are so cute. I also have such a cute child." As she spoke, her eyes turned red. "You know where he is, don't you? Please tell me. You came here today. You should know that no one in this courtyard will allow you to walk out of the Shaolin Temple alive. Even if it is me, I will eliminate you, the world's second most heinous villain, and also the world's first most heinous villain." Chen Ong said coldly, "If you want to make your move, I, Duan, will take it." Duan Yanqing smiled coldly. "Do you think you are the world's first most heinous villain? Ridiculous, you, Duan Yanqing, have killed countless people, your hands are stained with blood, but when it comes to evil deeds, can you even compare to Second Madam Yi? In any case, the people you killed were martial artists, but she killed innocent children. Your evil deeds, compared to her, are simply Bodhisattva's heart." Chen Ong sneered without any trace of politeness. "The world's first most heinous villain I am talking about is a great hero in the world of martial arts, a plaything that everyone praises. He wears a golden kasaya and is respected by everyone. Compared to him, what are you?" Every time Chen Ong said a sentence, the people present would look at Xianxi. Seeing Xianxi's pale face and trembling white eyebrows, Xianshi could not help but say, "Abbot, you, benefactor Chen, you are right." Xianxi took off his kasaya, kneeled heavily in front of the world, and said with a trembling voice, "This world's first most heinous villain should be born by this old monk." But Chen Ong did not even look at him, but said to Second Madam Yi, "You have done so much, is it worth it?" Second Madam Yi combed her hair. "I know my own bitterness. In order to see him, everything is worth it. Lord, please tell me the whereabouts of that child." Chen Ong sighed. "Although you are hateful, that child is innocent. If I tell you, I am afraid that there will be no place for him in the world. Come closer to me." Second Madam Yi moved closer to Chen Ong and listened to his words. Her face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression, and she excitedly looked towards the Shaolin Temple. When she saw an ugly little monk, she excitedly turned her head, not daring to look at him again. "Thank you, thank you." Second Madam Yi burst into tears. When she saw that little monk, although she did not know what his name was, his eyebrows and eyes were extremely similar to when he was a child. He was extraordinarily ugly. She was somewhat at a loss and did not know what to do. She could only look back at Xianxi, as if she wanted to get some comfort from him. At this moment, she had never looked forward to a family reunion so much. "Your wish has been fulfilled. I can also rest assured and let you go on your way," Chen Ong said lightly. "Almsgiver Chen, please wait. All the sins are caused by me. Let me bear her sins." Xianxi could not help but say, "You can't bear it." Chen Ong replied coldly, "Xianxi, you can't bear the responsibility for all this. Decades ago at Yanmen Pass, you couldn't bear the responsibility for it, causing Yi Ernyang to lose her son. You couldn't bear the responsibility for the crime of adultery, causing Yi Ernyang's hands to be stained with blood. You still can't bear the responsibility for the death of countless innocent children. Today you have lost your reputation. Look back, what have you borne? You are not as good as a person, let alone a monk. You have been fighting for the reputation of Shaolin all your life, but in the end, you still can't bear the reputation of Shaolin." Chen Ong sighed. "You are really a man without any responsibility. Is a monk also a man? All the foolishness is my sin, and it has nothing to do with Shaolin," Xianxi said with difficulty. Chapter 79. The faces of the Shaolin monks were ashen, as if a layer of ash could be scraped off. Chen Eng's words were very serious. What he meant was that all the monks in the courtyard were hypocritical and ignorant. None of them was worthy of his respect. But seeing Xian Xi's defeated face, they could not say anything to defend themselves. Chen Ong did not mention anyone, but the people present were all shrewd people. They had already guessed the conflict between Xian Xi and Yi Ernyang. They just did not say it out of respect for Shaolin. All the heroes in the yard stood there in silence. That in itself was a kind of stance. Otherwise, with the good karma that Shaolin had built in the martial arts world, how could no one have spoken up to help them? The lives of hundreds of innocent children, the grief of hundreds of ordinary families, who could bear such a sin? Xian Xi looked haggard. He struggled to get up and looked around at the heroes in the courtyard. Looking at their disdainful, sighing, or resentful eyes, he sighed in despair. Excellent, excellent. Since there is karma, there will be karma. Ernyang, you have suffered all these years. Alas! His long sigh was filled with endless remorse. Xian Xi turned around to face Chen Ong and pleaded, "What the old monk has done, even though it is innumerable and unspeakable, it has nothing to do with the other disciples of Shaolin Temple. Shaolin Temple has strict rules and regulations since the ancient times. The other martial brothers and martial brothers strictly abide by the rules and practice Buddhism. Benefactor, you must not generalize. I am an idiot, it has nothing to do with the other Buddhist disciples." He knelt down heavily and pleaded, "Benefactor, please allow me to receive the punishment of 200 strokes of the rod, and then I will go with you to the 6-fan school to be punished." He spat out the last 4 words. A line of turbid tears flowed down along the wrinkles. His white eyebrows fluttered in the wind, desolate and lonely. The crowd of heroes on the scene saw that the abbot, who was usually full of vigor, now looked like an ordinary old man. They could not help but feel a bit sorry for him. The Shaolin monks even lowered their heads and closed their eyes, silently reciting the name of Buddha. Xian Xi, you've let Shaolin down, but what about the others? Chen Ong sighed and said, "Even in this situation, what you can't forget is still Shaolin's clean reputation. Your child is right in front of you, but you don't even ask about it. You don't even care about second Mother Ye's life or death. This is your family's business, so I shouldn't say much. But even now, what you can't let go of is still the Shaolin Temple on Mount Song. Have you repented in the past 20 years? At this moment, you still don't know that I'm here to force you today, not because of the bullshit Shaolin rules, but because you've been watching and conniving at second Mother Ye's evil deeds for the past decades." Chen Ong took a good look at the gate of the Shaolin Temple. The words, "Zen Sect Ancestral Court," shone in the sunlight. He sighed painfully and said, "Before you die, you are still thinking about the commandments and rules of the Shaolin Temple. It seems to be a great honor for you to die under the rules of the Shaolin Temple. Buddha has chanted the word mercy for so long. Has it become a rule? When I read the Buddhist scriptures, I saw mercy and mercy for all living beings. But in Shaolin's Buddhist scriptures, I saw rules and a bloody word, eat people. Xian Xi, until today you still put mercy and mercy behind the rules. This is Shaolin's sin." Xian Xi closed her eyes and said, "I did not abide by the rules and made a big mistake. Shaolin's precepts persuade people to do good. It is a very good thing. Today I have added dignity to Shaolin's rules. I am sure that in the future, the monks will always be vigilant and will not repeat my mistake. This will not go against the original meaning of mercy and precept." What a pity, what a pity! Your rules are cannibalistic rules. Your precepts are killing precepts. How many tenant farmers at the foot of Mount Song have died because of this rule? At the foot of Buddhism, the life of the poor is even more difficult than in other places. You wear kasayas and gild Buddha's body. You don't produce, don't work. You follow the rules and follow the precept. But what you eat is human blood and human flesh. Buddha's golden body is gilded with the blood and sweat of the farmers. You are chanting mercy and serving Buddha. In this world, there are people suffering all the time. On the mountain, have you done anything for them? Adding oil in the middle of the night, burning incense day and night. Copper luohan, gold-plated dharmakaya. Extravagant serving Buddha but ignoring mercy. Shaolin's rules, why don't you change them into Baizhang's rules? Baizhang, the founder of the Tang dynasty's Zen sect, worshipped Buddha by bowing to the field. He advocated self-work and self-reliance. The Shaolin monks naturally knew this. Hearing this, their faces changed. Xian Ci took a deep breath and was speechless. He looked at Yi Ernyang and thought of his own child. He could not help but ask softly, Ernyang, where is our son? Can't you just tell me? Yi Ernyang heard this and revealed a happy expression. She wanted to point out to Xian Ci, but she did not dare. She moved closer to Xian Ci's ear and whispered something. Xian Ci looked in the direction of the Shaolin monk. Suddenly he smiled calmly and said, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. Ernyang, don't worry. He is a very good child. He turned to look at Chenong. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something. But suddenly he did not want to and just shook his head. Yi Ernyang pulled him and said with a smile, You go first. I know he is good, so I am relieved. Her face showed a calm expression. Xian Ci and Chen Ong understood something. Yi Ernyang took out a dagger from her bosom and said to Chen Ong, Originally, if you lied to me, I was going to use this dagger to end it. I knew what you wanted to do, so I thought that when I die, you will not have any evidence. But you did not lie to me? How do you know I did not lie to you? Don't you want to verify it? Chen Ong asked. When I saw him, I knew it. His eyes and brows are not wrong. When I look at him, it is like looking at a piece of my flesh. It is very intimate. Yi Ernyang said calmly, He has a mother like me. Is it very embarrassing? She was fine a moment ago, but when she said this, she could not help but sob and tremble. He is a kind person. He will not feel embarrassed. He will only be grateful to you, love you, and use his life to atone for your sins. Chen Ong said slowly, No, my sins are so heavy. I don't want him to pay for them for me. Yi Ernyang's voice was choked with tears. He should be innocent and live his own life. It has nothing to do with me, a damn woman. Don't let him know. Don't let him know about me. When she said this, she felt like a knife was being twisted in her heart. Do you know who took your child away? Chen Ong let out a long sigh. I beg him not to disturb my child. Yi Ernyang said painfully. She could not help but want to protect her child, but she did not dare to. She could only helplessly grab the rigid board and leave streaks of blood on it. No one is innocent. All sentient beings are sinners. Xian Ci, the blood debt outside Yanmen Pass will eventually be repaid by someone. You broke his family, and he separated your flesh and blood. Life is unpredictable. Revenge breeds revenge. When will it end? Karma, retribution. Xian Ci sighed and said, I wonder how many of the Qiao couple, Ma Diyuan and Xian Ku, were killed by that benefactor? Ma Diyuan was killed by his wife, who had an affair with Bai Shijing. The others were all killed by him. Will he harm my child? Yi Ernyang looked at Chen Ong helplessly. Chen Ong looked back at Xiao Feng and said, Hero Xiao is 80% similar to him. They are both good men. I think he would not bully an orphan. Yi Ernyang smiled bitterly and said, Good. It's good that he won't. She pulled out the dagger and looked at her face under the cold light of the dagger. She sighed and said, I want to hear him call me mother. She suddenly turned back and stabbed her right arm. Ernyang. Xian Ci was shocked and tried to stop her, but she was blocked by Yi Ernyang's flesh and blood. Yi Ernyang cut off a bloody piece of flesh from her own body. She said to the crowd, In the past, I acted recklessly and unscrupulously. I committed many evil deeds. I even separated the flesh and blood of my loved ones. Today I, Yi Ernyang, cut off my flesh and bones to pay for my sins. Her voice was high-pitched and intense, startling everyone on the scene. Even Chen Ong was taken aback. He didn't expect her to be so resolute. He saw Yi Ernyang backhandedly cut off her little finger. Xian Xi rushed forward and pulled her. The old monk cried bitterly and said, "Ernyang, all the sins are because of me. You can't do this." "I know." Yi Ernyang smiled bitterly and said, "I am also a mother. How can I not know how the hatred of losing one's own flesh and blood can drive one crazy? What I experienced 20 years ago, the people here, the people in the world have all experienced. In the past, I could not wait to eat their flesh and sleep on their skin. Today, how many people have experienced the same pain as me and have such hatred?" She smiled and said, "I want my child to live a pure and innocent life in this world. His mother should also be a pure and innocent person. I only hope that my flesh and blood can make up for that 1 in a million sin, so that Buddha can bless him to be safe and happy, so that he will no longer bear the burden of my sins." Xian Xi said with a trembling voice, "Ernyang, Ernyang, you must have a reason, a reason." He held her and stood up. He trembled and put Yi Ernyang on the ground. He was afraid that his tears would drip on Yi Ernyang's wound. "You are afraid, aren't you?" Chen Ong sighed and said. Yi Ernyang cried out involuntarily, "I am afraid, I am afraid. Those children come to find me every day. It's fine if they find me, but don't pester my child. I have experienced that kind of hatred, that kind of pain. I know that they will not let us go." She pulled Xian Xi's hand and said with difficulty, "We can't live, but our child is still alive. He is so young, and he doesn't know martial arts. If others find him, what will he do? Now, as long as I die, the more miserable the better. The more miserable my death is, the less resentment they will have, and the safer my child will be. As long as he can live happily and peacefully, I don't want anything else." Xian Xi said painfully, "All of this is because of me. Ernyang, why do you have to suffer such pain?" He looked up to the sky and let out a long cry. His voice was full of desolation and helplessness. "How can my pain compare to that of those parents who have lost their children? It's not even 1/10,000th of the pain. This is the retribution I deserve. I was wrong, I was really wrong. People's hearts are made of flesh. I only hope that they will let go of this hatred for the sake of me dying without a complete corpse. This is my only wish," Yi Ernyang said with a smile. Xian Xi raised his right palm and struck his left hand with the full force of the great Vajra palm. In an instant, his muscles and bones were crushed. He laughed and said, "Ernyang, I will accompany you. Almsgiver Chen, can you recite a copy of the reincarnation scripture for those children?" Yi Ernyang begged. Chen Ong nodded silently and sat cross-legged. Clear Sanskrit sounds echoed in the sky. "Namo Amitba night Dota Jidwa, ye shivering night he Amitba Pai." That day, the rain of blood fell for a whole night, and thunder rumbled unceasingly. A young monk looked at the sky curiously. Did he know that someone had redeemed a sin that could not be washed clean for him? The souls of two sinners would accompany each other, entangled on the river of 3 roads. Day and night they would forever fall into the Avicii. All emotions are sinful. Chapter 80. In recent days, the lives of the Jianghu heroes became more and more difficult. The imperial court ordered the price of goods to be stabilized and the illegal guilds to be suppressed. With the forbidden martial hall as a sharp knife, the aristocratic families, officials, and nobles unscrupulously extended their claws into the territories of the Jianghu gangs. The heroes all felt that the government was becoming more and more lenient. On the one hand, it was to settle accounts with the gangs that had blood debt. On the other hand, it was the increasingly tough business families. Many rich families did not send their children to sects to learn martial arts. Instead, they sent them to the capital, the Martial Lecture Hall, and the Yulin Royal Guards. The magnificent military of the Great Song could better protect their businesses. The masters of the Six Fan School also tightened their restrictions on the Jianghu. Together with the forbidden martial hall stationed in the prefectural cities, they strictly followed the 36 prohibitions on martial arts, forcing the Jianghu heroes to retreat. Many sects that were stationed in the past had to mix with the lower-class people and mix with the lower-class people. A crueler and more naked law of survival gradually spread in the Jianghu. The Beggars sect, a big gang and sect, had a close relationship with the government. They were doing well in the Xi and Xixia. Their disciples colluded with the government and secretly formed their own family. They suppressed the lower class of the Jianghu, making it hard for them to breathe. People from all walks of life blended into the marketplace. The increasingly prosperous seaport also became a place for the heroes of the world of martial arts. The sects, the world of martial arts, the court, and the order was broken. Gradually, a new stability and balance were formed. The Great Song dynasty was much more peaceful. The merchants and commoners could no longer hear the news of the heroes of the underworld. The shady knight-errant had also disappeared from the villages and small towns, gathering in the big cities along the coast. In these places where wealth and filth gathered, the Jianghu heroes lost their stable income. For wealth and status, they fought even more fiercely. The Jianghu seemed to have disappeared from the common people and hid in more secret places. The Forbidden Martial Hall and the Six Fan School maintained this order. Without the harassment of the gangs, life in the countryside suddenly became much better. However, the places where wealth and business gathered became darker. Some simple and common martial arts became popular in the world. Not only did the army practice it, but the sects also practiced it diligently. The sects of the martial arts world, the imperial court of the Great Song dynasty, and the sects of the pugilistic world spread with the revolution. The strong preyed on the weak, and the atmosphere of the strong being respected gradually became the new order of the world of martial artists. The Wulin formed by the sects, the Jianghu formed by the gangs, and the imperial court represented by the Six Fan School and the Forbidden Martial Arts Hall experienced even more complicated changes. In the lives of ordinary people, Wulin seemed to be gradually fading away. But in other places, an even bigger and more magnificent Jianghu was rising. At the moment when the huge ship rode the wind and broke through the waves, at the moment when the four masters of the Forbidden Martial Hall forced the Indian countries to submit and pay tribute, the flowing wealth of gold, silver, and bronze, and the vast land became the place where the people of Jianghu fought for their lives due to the flourishing of medicine and martial arts. The jet-black sect of the Martial Prohibition Hall and the rising Gongshu family of the Jianghu allowed huge mechanical fireships to roam the four seas. After the Shaolin and the other sects were attacked by the Forbidden Martial Hall, they had to turn their attention to overseas. Nanyang, Xinzhou, Daguang, Qionghai, and Neon. Above the four seas, the flying fish flag of the Forbidden Martial Hall roamed freely. In the end, the bustling central plains were not as attractive as the chaotic overseas. After a few third-rate martial arts masters earned a family business in Nanyang and returned home in glory, many Jianghu people looked forward to the overseas flowing with wealth and rushed to the four seas. In a small town in the East Sea, Huang Chang looked at the report in his hand with a complicated expression. He sighed and said, after the governor left, Tong Guan and the other eunuchs took over the power and won the trust of the emperor. With the four masters, Jiumaji, Murong Bo, Duan Yanqing, and Xiao Yuanshan as accomplices, the Forbidden Martial Hall has become a tool for the imperial court to oppress Jianghu. He held the hand of a young child and boarded a large ship. Apothecary, come with me overseas and be an idle hermit. In the smoke of war. Yunqing, come with me. On the battlefield of Songliao, a young general pushed the woman in white in front of him away with determination. Sister Ing, it is my lifelong dream to restore Yin. I will not leave at this time. Tong Guan will not let you go. Yunqing, you have the Tao Te Ching written by the former governor of the Forbidden Martial Hall, Chenong. There is a saying in Jianghu, Tao Te Ching Prajna, whoever has one will be invincible. Tongguan is most afraid of Chenong. He will not let the Tao Te Ching fall into the hands of others. Governor Tong is righteous and has made countless contributions to the country. He destroyed Xixia in 3 months and Tubo in 3 years. Now the war between Song and Liao is imminent. The great Song dynasty will be realized in our hand. Sistering, don't believe the rumors in Jianghu. In the palace of Great Song, a young eunuch carefully opened the door of the library and stretched his body in. He hurriedly took off his hat, took out a book from inside, and placed it on the bookshelf. Under the dim light, the 4 words, Essence Talisman Immortal Dictionary, shone brightly. The young eunuch carefully took out a copy of the Prajna Heart Sutra along with a copy of the Grand View of Snakes and stuffed them into his hat. Then, he quickly retreated. A small snake crawled out of his sleeve and slipped in through the crack of the door. Coiled around the door and window. On the grassland, a young man carried Lu Ning on his back and galloped away. Behind them were dozens of soldiers from 6 Fan School. Hongqi, go, go! Go by yourself. That old scoundrel Tongguan will not let me go. The commander's legacy absolutely cannot fall into his hands. This Prajna Heart Sutra hides a gargantuan secret, but I only have the first half. I've hidden the second half in the Imperial Library. Take it and run. Run. Lu Ning patted his body and jumped up angrily. He slapped his hands 3 times in the air towards the soldiers behind him. The soldiers who were chasing after him stood up straight. The arrowhead of the crossbow was aimed at his body. At this moment, a heroic voice shouted, "Little brother, what happened?" Xiao Feng pulled Hongqi up on his horse. Seeing the soldiers behind him, he struck out with the dragon subduing palm. He grabbed Lu Ning with one hand and carried Hongqi with the other. While the soldiers were busy dispelling the palm force, he galloped away. Ha ha! Little brother, we meet again. Since we are fated to meet, I'll ask Zhu to cook a bowl of beef soup for you later. In the Imperial Palace of Dali, Duan Yu picked up the memorial and frowned. A young and adorable boy was curiously looking at the memorial in his hand, but his hand was quietly reaching for the solitary Yang Sutra on the table. Duan Yu smiled as he picked him up and said, "Ji Xing, don't move. This is a gift from a very powerful person to Uncle." 10 years after Chen Ong left, in Jianghu, there was an endless stream of unique martial arts. The World Martial Arts General Outline and the 100 Schools of Martial Arts had long been published in the world. Countless people were practicing martial arts and breathing. In the Central Plains, dragons were hibernating. In the new continent, dragons and snakes were rising. A fierce era was coming. At this time, Chen Ong was already in the world of Limitless. He stood on the high core energy building, staring at the cold blue energy light. Behind him, someone suddenly called him. "Doctor, the first platform is ready." Chen Ong glided to the first platform along the platform in the air. He saw a huge instrument placed in the center of the platform. The old doctor was panting and trembling. "Doctor, the evolution potion is ready. The stability of your genes has reached a very high level. You can already inject the evolution potion. Why is the cultivation progress of the blood orchid so slow? Is the new generation of evolution potion still inseparable from the blood orchid as a stabilizer?" Chenong frowned. The cultivation of the blood orchid requires an extremely precious natural substance that cannot be synthesized artificially. This is where its medicinal effect lies. We can't cultivate it on a large scale. Without this stabilizer, the mortality rate of the evolution potion will be astonishingly high, the old doctor replied. "How is the research on the interaction between qi and the blood orchid?" "It's going well. There are already evolvers who claim to have sensed qi. According to several blood samples brought back by the doctor, their lifespan may reach 300 years. The role of qi in promoting the efficacy of the evolution potion is too obvious. Chen-Ong was lying on the test bench. The blood-red potion was injected into his body. The old doctor was surprised to find that Chen-Ang's eyes had become dark blue. His body suddenly trembled violently, but it was quickly controlled by Chen-Ong. The little things around him suddenly floated uncontrollably. The old doctor looked at this scene in shock and suddenly shouted to the door, "Quick, quick, level 4 supernatural phenomenon. Experiment Group 1 to record and Group 2 to observe." He hurriedly ran to Chen-Ang's side. Chen-Ong gently held up a piece of paper. A piece of white paper floated in the air. He quickly folded it in half, then pulled it up and folded it. Soon, a paper frog appeared in his palm. The floating objects around him suddenly fell. Only this paper frog, like a real frog, jumped as if it was alive. Is the observation of the phenomenon obvious? Chen-Ong suddenly asked the experimenter next to him. There is no physical quantity at all. We can't observe its reaction. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it at all. No, now I still suspect that there is something wrong with my eyes. The instrument can't be wrong. It's our eyes that are more easily deceived, a female researcher wearing glasses said in disbelief. Maybe it's not a problem with the eyes or the instrument. Maybe it's our world that is hiding these things. Chen-Ong accurately judged his own strength. Based on the numbers that everyone could understand, he only had about 5 kilograms of strength. He could only vaguely feel some subtle changes. However, under the heavy concealment it was hard to see clearly the nature of the supernatural ability. This world was like a huge lock. It couldn't do anything to the internal force that originated from the body. However, it seemed to be effective against the laws of physics and the laws of nature. Chen-Ong had a guess. Different laws and spatial environments might bring about some restrictions. Some abilities that were only effective in a certain world due to some special conditions couldn't be used in places where the environment was too different. There was no absolute truth in the universe. Science would always be relatively correct. Some things that were effective in the water would definitely be hindered on land. The internal combustion engine was a joke at the bottom of the sea. However, on land, it had triggered a revolution in power. In this way, if there was no tracing back to the truth, some abilities could only be effective in one world. Internal force seemed to be something that was closer to the essence. At least after so many worlds, it had always been very stable. The development of the brain was the same or even closer. This should be related to the reason that they originated from the body. However, things outside the body didn't seem to be so simple. Perhaps I need a new laboratory,